All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is David Patrick Harry with Church of the Eternal Logos, and I'm joined by my friend, scholar, educator, Bazed Lit Analyzer. How you doing today, sir?
Hey, Merry Christmas. Welcome to the party, pals.
Welcome to the party.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. This is a great movie, classic, and I can't wait to get your take on this. I covered this last year, right before Christmas on my channel. Long stream I did with Jethro, like 5 hours long or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
Shout out to Jethro.
Yeah, so this is going to be a good one. This is a classic. It's a crowd favorite for sure. I mean, I don't know anybody who hadn't seen this. If you haven't seen this, what are you doing? You got to watch this one. And I can't wait to get DPH's takes on this one, especially as far as Christmas narrative with the film. So that's a good one.
Yeah, I got a few interesting. So I always got to do a little bit of research for some of these streams because you're going to be hammering me with a bunch of film, literary analysis. So for me, I got 5 points, and we're going to cover this all through the intro. 5 points how we can view a sort of Christian message in the movie Die Hard. I'm really pulling here. But I think the archetypal structure, I think people will generally agree with. And then I collected a bunch I was trying to find unique facts about the movie because BLA always has a bunch of unique tidbits and insights. So I was like, all right, I got to find something. So I found 19 little points. And I'm gonna let BLA. He probably already knows most of them. I already mentioned one backstage. Like, oh yeah. So he's already probably gonna know a handful of them. But I got 19 unique facts, and then I'm going to create a poll here on my channel. So again, we always dual stream, but if you guys want to, if anybody's over on, or you could create one on your channel actually while we're doing it, but create a poll: is Die Hard a Christmas movie? And I tried to steel man both sides, so I got 5 points for why it in fact is a Christmas movie, and then 5 points on how you could argue that it is not. So I'm pretty sure the vast majority of the audience is going to vote that it is. But, I guess to begin the conversation here, God willing, it's not 5 hours, but who knows? I told BLA before we went live, I was like, I think, clicking through the movie as we always do when we do these film analysis, I was like, well, this one's pretty straightforward. And he goes, well, we always say that. And then it's like, yeah, it's true. We do always say that. And then it's like 3.5 hours later, and we're like, just now halfway through the film. And it's like, so we'll see. We'll see how tonight goes.
Yeah. The last time, I forget what the last one we covered was. I think it was Michael Clayton.
Yeah.
And even that one, I remember you were like, listen, I got to be somewhere in 2 hours. So we gotta cover this. And it was like 3.5 hours later. It was
Well, and we were texting back and forth, and I go, man, we got to do another Christmas movie. Because looking back, we've done Christmas film analysis 3 years in a row. This is the fourth year.
Yeah.
And so we did Home Alone 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. We did It's a Wonderful Life and The Christmas Story. And we did National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation and A Christmas Story.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the 4th year running. This is an annual tradition at this point with me and BLA. So I texted him. I was like, man, we got to do something Christmas themed. And he texts back, Die Hard.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, let's do it.
Within 2 seconds, I'm so dialed in. It was already on my mind. Yeah, no, it's crazy. We haven't done this one yet. I think it's good that we're getting to it now. There's this debate. There's the debate among the movie nerds out there like me about if this is a Christmas movie. And already in the chat, somebody said, just because it's set at Christmas, is this a Christmas movie? Well,
we're gonna make the case.
It's an interesting question.
Siege D showed some love for both of our channels. He sent me $2. And you $2 says, yes, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And this was the one he sent over on your channel. So shout out to Siege D. Thank you very much, brother, for the early support for both me and my brother BLA. And if anybody has any questions or comments for BLA, you want to support his work and research or mine, feel free to send in super chats on YouTube. I know BLA, you probably have all your links over on your channel.
Yep, all put up there. Yes, and Jason's dropping them for me right there.
Me on Dono Chat or Streamlabs as well.
Yeah, so, shout out to Jenny right there in the chat. There's Jenny.
Hey,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and this has been, you've been killing it, been doing a ton of streams, and this is a good time of year coming up towards the Christmas season. So, people, just short plug here. Go over to Jamie Hanshaw's channel and check out our recent analysis of the Stargate conspiracy. We also covered it last night on Boiler Room.
Oh, nice.
And please check out I did a recent analysis of what was now I don't remember. What was it? The wholesome stream. I did a wholesome stream, and that one didn't get the numbers that you catch me if you can. Yeah, people didn't like the wholesome stream as much. So please help me get those numbers up to 1,000, you guys. And I got some big ones coming up that I'll talk about at the end of the stream. So
great, yeah. Great. And if anybody's interested, you can always sponsor a stream for me and BLA if you have a movie review or a literary review, but preferably we've been asked a few times. It's like a 1,000-page book. It's like, come on, cut us a break. Give us something easy to digest. So preferably movie reviews if you have a movie review or another Christmas movie. I know the debate is still ongoing right now on Die Hard. Well, we're going to definitively end the perennial question of, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Yeah. And well, I'm going to create that poll right now, but let's just get into why did you choose Die Hard when I asked you about doing a Christmas movie this season. Give us your thoughts. Break down the film. Why is it interesting? Why do you like it?
Well, I got the poll up on my channel too right now. It's at 90%. Yes, I don't know how many people have voted.
Okay,
but
I'm getting ready to create a poll right now.
It's at 90%, and I thought of it because when I was covering the wholesome movies, one of which was Catch Me If You Can with Leo, which is set at Christmas time. Goes through a cycle of Christmases in it, and I was thinking about unconventional Christmas movies, and this movie was not released at Christmas time. So the original blockbuster season for films, people, the movie nerds will know this. The original blockbuster season for films is at Christmas time. Is in the summertime, and I froze over here. Yeah, and the first, shut this. I'm gonna shut some of my tabs here, so I'm not. There we go. The first blockbuster, of course, summer blockbuster was Jaws in 1975, and that sort of led on to let's have two blockbuster seasons. And so the big season, of course, aside from summer, is Christmas. And this was a summer blockbuster movie. It was 1988, but it's set at Christmas time. And that's kind of unique because ordinarily people don't want to look at the snow when they're, when it's summertime. They want summertime movies. Same with, at Christmas time, you don't really want to watch desert island movies. You want to watch things that are seasonal. But I think this was a very good one because, first of all, it's a movie for guys who like movies. It's a real banger, and it's an action movie. I would put this movie up with the finest action movies. I think that the greatest action movie of all time is Predator. It's almost a flawless movie. It's almost perfect. And of course, this is John McTiernan again. So he really had some hits, and it's partly unconventional because, I know you're going to mention some of the facts behind the scenes with this, but Bruce Willis was not the action hero superstar. This was his breakout movie, and he had a whole line of these movies, and he's a great action star, but it sort of does what Lethal Weapon does, which is it combines the right amount of humor and likability with action sequences. And I think that probably the best thing about this movie is that the narrative and the characterization doesn't stop halfway or 3/4 through the movie and then get taken over with action, which happens with almost every movie, especially action movies. This one goes all the way through. The great lines and like getting to know the characters happens consistently all throughout the movie. And we actually end up caring about the bad guys in a way where they're so likable. Gruber and his gang is so likable at times. They make the cops especially out to be such dickheads that you really want the bad guys to win.
Right.
And there's also the cops and robbers aspect. There's a Western subplot that goes along with this. He's Roy Rogers, of course, and there's a shootout. There's almost a Mexican standoff at the end of the movie. It's it's just really fantastic.
So, one super chat did come in from Justin Henley. Want to give him a special shout out. He threw $5 in and said, "Yippee ki yay, champs!"
Yeah, there you go.
I think he's already voted yes. Why don't we get into the Christmas movie? So,
Yeah.
I laid out arguments. So I always wanted to steal man. So 5 reasons why I think Die Hard could be considered a Christmas movie. As you said, it's number 1 is the setting. So the setting and atmosphere, as you already mentioned, now it takes place in LA, so there isn't as much snow. But the whole premise, I'm surprised if anybody hasn't seen the movie, is John McClellan, Bruce Willis. He is there to kind of salvage a broken marriage of where his wife has left him for the past 6 months to work for this Japanese business in LA in this high tower. And he is there to try to ask for forgiveness, apologize for the way that he failed to support her and her kind of career endeavors, and reconcile that relationship. And terrorists come in during the early part of the film with the intention of stealing like $600 million worth of goods in one of the vaults in the basement of the building. So the whole setting is during Christmas. So I wrote, number 1 reason why you can consider it a Christmas movie is the entire film takes place on Christmas Eve at a holiday party, immersing the audience in a Christmas setting. The decorations, the holiday music, the festive mood are present throughout the movie, and the incorporation of "Let It Snow" over the end credits reinforces a Christmas vibe. Do you have thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, it's first of all, in terms of
I'm sorry.
Yeah, John McClane. And that's all right. Instead of the, this is height of the 80s, and I did a whole stream on High Concept, Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer, and the revolutionizing of Hollywood away from the auteur cinema of the 70s. This is big action. And one thing that Bruckheimer films always do, this is sort of the opposite. Bruckheimer always tries to start his movies at dawn and end at dusk. So we have a daylight sequence. Also, it's in a sort of classical tragic circumstances, in terms of the time parameters where it takes place over the course of a day. They try and do that. His movies also end with the sort of a translucent American flag. So they, he has a lot of military involvement in his movies. This one does the opposite, and it's thematic. It starts off at sunset, just at nightfall, when Santa Claus arrives, and he's coming in on the plane. He's riding his sleigh his plane into LA, into foreign territory. It's crazy because he's not visiting children, but he's saving a bunch of people who clearly have children. And actually childhood plays a role in the film because, like you said, he's trying to reunite his family with Mrs. Claus, who, by the way, I just have to say, Holly Gennaro has a badass husband who saves the day and the city and saves all these lives and then leaves him again for the second movie. Right. Of course. Also, he's the name McClane. What's McClane? Crispy will have to. McClane is servant. I think McClane is servant of St. John. He's a servant.
I didn't even think about doing an etymology on the
protect and serve. He's a cop, but he's serving, and of course that's a Christmas theme. He's a servant. I forget what Gruber is. We'll have to ask Jenny. I think Gruber is like dweller of the pit or something like that.
Yes, you're right. McClane is Scottish and Irish Gaelic for the servant of John, or John's servant.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
cool there. See,
that's
why we love you.
That's why you got me. Yeah. and also there's a pilgrimage theme here. I can't help but see them. It's very unusual to have a character, a major plot point be a character with no shoes on.
Right.
It makes the movie quirky. It's something different for an action hero, but it also grounds him. Even though he's up in the skyscraper, he's sort of grounded, and he has to go through a number of trials and tribulations, all barefoot, with he picks up things as he goes, in order to save the day. And so, aside from the fact that the movie is set during Christmas time. I mean, it also begs the question, well, what is a Christmas movie? I mean,
Right.
Christmas is not for movies. So, um, it's a holiday, it's a holy day. And so to have movies, we naturally sort of get into um, sort of universe when we start to analyze, well, what makes a Christmas movie? I mean, if you say that It's a Wonderful Life is a Christmas movie, we've covered that, and It's a
Yep.
Wonderful Life. A lot of It's a Wonderful Life is spent in utter like it's horrible. He
Right.
goes through all of this terrible stuff, but that's to be saved at the end of the movie. And this one, he's the guy saving.
Right.
So
And that's going to play into how I viewed it as having sort of Christian overtones. But
mhm,
I didn't even pick up on the last names, and I just looked up Gruber, and it is German for valley dweller. At
mhm,
least that's what I'm seeing, valley dweller.
yeah,
So very,
yeah.
very nice pull there on the names. The
Also,
second
Holly
reason,
Gennaro. I'll say Holly Gennaro. I mean, she changes her name to her maiden name, and she's Holly Gennaro. Holly, the holly tree, and it's a holiday. And also, she becomes the generic. She's the generic busy businesswoman, right?
yeah,
He
boss
finds her
babe.
name on a screen, and he knows exactly what she's done, right? When he gets there and he looks up her
Right.
name. And the question is, what's going to unite their children? And it takes this external event to do that. So, yeah.
The second reason I argue that it could be viewed as a Christmas movie is the themes of reconciliation and family. So the central narrative arc is John McClane's effort to reconcile with his estranged wife Holly and his ultimate reunion with her and their children. These themes of family, forgiveness, togetherness align closely with the general, what I would consider the spirit of Christmas. People think of family together, coming together, sharing memories. So, and that's going to play into the Christian themes I also think that the movie can be perceived to have. So the theme of reconciliation and family, which is kind of what you were getting at with seeing him as a sort of Santa archetype coming in and rescuing. The third one is references to Christmas culture. Obviously, we already mentioned that. It includes numerous explicit nods to Christmas. For example, McClane tapes a gun to his back using holiday packing tape. And the iconic line, "Now I have a machine gun, ho, ho, ho," adds dark humor to the holiday theme. Number 4 is the spirit of generosity and self-sacrifice. McClane embodies the sacrificial spirit of Christmas by risking his life to save others. This selfishness can be interpreted as a secular reflection of the Christian message of love and giving. And then the fifth reason is pop cultural adaptation. So as we're going to highlight in the 5 reasons why you could consider it not a Christmas movie, despite the intentions of the director and the actor, it has been viewed and received by the American public as a Christmas movie. And so fans have embraced Die Hard as, in fact, a Christmas movie, organizing annual holiday screenings and including it in the Christmas watch list. And I have to say, my brother-in-law, that's what him and his brother did is as the night of Thanksgiving, they always watch Die Hard. And so it's always
Yeah.
a thing that it obviously is part of our family now. So it's something that my sister and then her girls, they do every year after we celebrate Thanksgiving over at their house. So I asked him, well, what's your favorite Christmas movie? And jokingly, but halfway serious, he said it's got to be Die Hard. Die Hard's my favorite Christmas movie. So
Yeah.
clearly the audience reception and the pop cultural reception of this movie puts it in the Christmas category.
Yeah. My family, we always watch this. I was telling you that, this is one of the movies that my dad bought on Prime. We always watch it together. We're a movie watching family anyway. So, but there's also, the masculine element of this movie is off the charts. It's dudes being dudes.
Yep.
And McClane, McClane, complete with wife beater, throughout the movie he's just so sick, dude. I mean, he's very cool. And what was I gonna say?
Family,
the element,
Christmas
one of
movie.
the other elements, yeah, is there's a weird sort of Cold War subplot that's occurring here too, because the guys are East German terrorists, and one of the things that they want to remember, Golden Dawn, right? The son, the guy, when they make the demands for who they want to free on the airplane, and he lists like the INLA or an IRA offshoot. It's a bunch of Marxist,
Right.
East German sympathetic groups, the Libyan, whatever. And of course, that's set up against McClane, who's the kind of Wild West cowboy, you know, he calls him cowboy,
Right.
yippee-ki-yay. And Gruber makes a number of American, decadent American comments. You Americans are all alike in this thing, and it really is buildings blowing up.
Yeah.
It's also the globalist element, in the movie is strong with Nakatomi Corporation. It's a multinational corporation. Of course, this is set in the 80s when Japan was the China of the 1980s, right?
Right.
Oh, the Japanese are taking over. There are a number of movies like that. Rising Sun by Michael Crichton being one of them. But this is one of them. And even the logo of Nakatomi in the building, it looks like a sort of an offshoot of the Pentagon or something, the way that it looks. And we just have entire buildings blowing up. Oh, there's also a slight like Masonic element in the movie. He goes up to the 32nd floor. He's got to make his way through the stages before his apotheosis at the end, which is blowing the roof off the building. There are also strong Big Nine predictive elements in the movie, which we'll get to as we watch the film.
Yeah, when we click through it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to run through a few quick arguments on why maybe it could be argued it's not a Christmas movie. Although looking at my chat, at least, and I assume yours as well, my chat is 67%. It is a Christmas movie, 33% saying that it's not. And so the argument, the Steelman argument against it being a Christmas movie, I have 5 points again. First one is it's not explicitly about Christmas, something like Christmas Vacation or Christmas Story. So it's not fundamentally about Christmas, unlike other classic Christmas films. And then number two is there's no transformative holiday message per se. Although in the first point, I argued, and you've already have too, you can certainly find one if you really dig deep. And so traditional Christmas movies typically convey messages tied to the season, such as the joy of giving, faith, redemption, or the power of hope. While Die Hard touches on these themes of family and sacrifice, these are not uniquely tied to Christmas. And then the third one is probably the one that most people would say, well, it's too violent and the tone of the movie doesn't feel like Christmas. Okay, it's a high octane action film, very, very American. Some dark humor that contrasts sharply with the warm, sentimental tone of most Christmas movies. And the bloodshed that's in the movie and some of the language may be at odds with the sort of typical cozy, family-oriented understanding of what a Christmas movie is.
Yeah.
And number four is Christmas is really a backdrop to the film. The holiday setting could have easily be swapped out for another event without significantly impacting the story or the narrative. A corporate party at another time of the year would serve the plot just as well. But again, I was just trying to argue that point. And then the last one that I found diving into is the creator's intent. So I found that the director and Bruce Willis, when filming Die Hard, never expected it to actually be perceived as a Christmas movie. And so John McTiernan, the director himself, described the Christmas elements as really a narrative device rather than the focus of the story. And so I put that as number 5 to butt up against the fact that no matter what the intention of the director of Bruce Willis was, it has been accepted in American pop culture as a legitimate Christmas movie. So those are my 5 points for and against. And me personally, I do believe that it is a Christmas movie. So maybe it's not your typical category. Maybe it's not something you watch with your 3 or 4-year-old child, but I would definitely consider it part of the Christmas movie category.
Well, my counter argument to some of those, if I have one, would be that Christmas is not just for your 3 and 4-year-old,
Right.
and like, my friend Mikhail, Technor Graphics, says it best, protecting the weak is based. And that's exactly what he's doing here. He's protecting his wife and all these people who have been held hostage. And also I think that it's always, I love looking into what they intended with the filmmaking, because that's sort of part of, how we come to discover some of these things. But like with literature, it becomes an exercise in relevance when you are discussing the meaning versus effect in terms of a work of art, because Joel Silver, the producer, who is great. I mean, this guy makes bangers. Okay,
Right.
Joel Silver and Bruce Willis and John McTiernan will not live forever. And their movie also, is everything is temporary, but part of the movies is, one of the things with movies is that they remain forever young, or the age that they do on the screen, the silver screen. Part of the movie magic is the, infinite youth until the film stock corrupts for the movie stars. And the movie has lasted. It's been very strong up to now. So it's what we get from watching the finished piece. It's not necessarily what they intended with the movie. The intention can be totally different from the effect. And also it's a common mistake. I find this all the time with literature, that it is a common mistake to discuss what the author or what the filmmaker or the artist wanted to achieve, or what they think the meaning of their work is. There's something weird. There's something weirdly spiritual that happens with works of art when you're creating something, because it takes on something bigger than the artist. And I think that occurs with this movie. It's like asking Robert Frost, like, what he thinks that his poems mean, stopping by woods on a snowy evening, which seems to be a poem about, it's miles to go before I sleep. It seems like an insulated, snowy time, and the guy's riding a sleigh. Well, it also, Robert Frost had no idea what his poem meant. When they asked him about it, he said, "I don't know. I'm just a farmer from New Hampshire. I don't know what it means." And he was psychotic. I mean, his kids, like 3 of his kids went to an insane asylum. His wife was put away. His wife woke up one time with him holding a gun to her head, like in the bed. The guy was crazy, but he wrote this great poem, and the poem takes on something completely different. So I think that it's the same thing with this. And also, by the way, I'm old enough to be of the boomer mindset where, watching movies like this when you're young, as a young lad, is pretty dope. It's an action movie that inspires you to be a hero. And although it's a hard hitting action movie with pretty violent sequences, it's actually not gratuitous. Like the
Right.
bad guys, Hans Gruber is a pretty, I mean, I know everybody says this, but he's almost a Luciferian character in this. Like, he's well dressed, he's well spoken, he's seductive. He has all these charming qualities. Even at the end of the movie, when the 3 of them when he and Hans Gruber and McClane are standing there in the Mexican standoff with the guy who looks like Huey Lewis, the guy at the front desk, and they're all laughing. It's
Right.
like, hey, we're a bunch of guys. We can laugh about this before he smokes them both. So, I think that it's taken on something completely different with this,
Yeah.
and it's no matter what, it's a sick movie, dude. This movie rocks.
No, it's a timeless action film. I was telling BLA backstage, because we both rewatched it last night. Already, both of us had seen the movie multiple times before. And my wife, she was seeing it for the first time. She was excited that German was spoken, that the antagonists were all German.
Yeah.
But I was telling BLA that the action sequences, the flow of the film, as he already mentioned, that action begins within the first 15-20 minutes of the film, and it continues throughout the whole thing. That it is a timeless American action film, regardless, and it is not antiquated in any sense when you watch it in 2024.
Yeah. Oh, Gorilla Biscuits in my chat says McTiernan was on a tear. Predator, Die Hard, and Hunt for Red October. I just covered Hunt for Red October with Mark Hackard over there. So another McTiernan movie. I mean, just so cool. And like you were saying, the continuity of the film is such that, I mean, the first line you get in the movie is this stranger on the plane offering advice, right? And we see McClane there, and he's he's got his gun in his holster, and he's got, and he's there to see his kids. And then he meets Argyle, the limo driver, and just everybody. It's what is really cool about this movie, not to spurg out too much, but what's really cool about this movie is that there is very little exposition in the movie. We as the audience don't need to be told things that are outside of the normal course of conversation in terms of the events of the movie. When
Right.
we get to meet Argyle, the limo driver, I mean, this is like a kid that I teach. I mean, he's got a job. He's got nothing to do. He sits in the basement the whole time in the limo in the backseat talking to his girlfriend. And when he sees the bad guys coming, he takes action and he knocks out the other bad. He knocks out the bad guy. I mean, it's just cool. Like everyone, even Nakatomi, we were talking about Hart Bachner, the sleazeball in the movie. That guy is my favorite character in the whole movie, right? He going into his office and he's wiping the yayo off of his desk. Hey, it's a Rolex, baby. And the Rolex comes back in the movie to be an integral plot point. Right, with the death of Hans Gruber in the movie. It all comes down to the Rolex. It all comes down to material possessions. And that's okay. Now I'm just in real time realizing the bad guys, there's a continuous part in the movie where they make reference to, oh, you're just thieves. You're just, you're the 40 thieves. You're here to take this stuff. It's all about money. I thought you had some sort of ideology, which is a whole other discussion. But they're there to steal the Christmas presents, right from the other people. So
a very Grinch tale.
Yes. Yes. Hans Grinch. Okay.
We had a few super chats sent in. A couple of them were questions, so I want to save those till once we wrap up the intro here before we dive into the film analysis. But a major thank you to Siege D, throws in $5, says welcome to the party, pal. And then First Person Q both gifted us both a $3 super sticker. Thank you so much, First Person Q, to supporting both of our channels. God bless you, brother. Thank you very much. I wanted to, and I don't want to elaborate too much because this really isn't the focus of the film, but I do this for every film analysis we do, is try to pull out some type of Christian themes or messages. And so I have 5 points where we could view Die Hard if you just watch the film from a Christian theological analysis. My 5 points. The first one is redemption and sacrifice. I kind of already hinted at that one, but the redemption arc of John McClane. He is a flawed man, estranged from his wife and struggling with pride and interpersonal reconciliation. Over the course of the film, he undergoes a personal transformation, learning humility, selflessness, and the importance of love and family. This arc echoes a Christian emphasis on repentance and the transformative power of grace. And obviously tied in with that is his sacrificial love, his willingness to endure physical suffering to save others, including his wife, can be interpreted as an act of sacrificial love. And I point to John 15:13 as that love being the sort of ideal of Christian love. And then if you have thoughts, feel free to chime in. I'll just cover these quickly. Go ahead.
The redemption arc of Sergeant Al Powell even supersedes that. The right hand man.
That's true.
I mean, he has a true redemption arc, and it's not quite a Christmas redemption arc, how he does it, but it is. I mean, he's got a horrible story in the movie, which is one of the things that really sells the movie.
Right.
That he's this conflicted cop. But he saves the day in the movie. It's crazy because McClane saves the day, and then he's saved by someone lower down on the rung than him. Lower down in terms of the building. Also, the guy's completely grounded. So there are a number of different redemptive elements in the film.
Yeah, that's a great point. I didn't even think about Al. Number 2 is evil and the nature of sin. So Hans Gruber is sort of, as you highlighted, takes on a sort of Luciferian archetype. I said he kind of personifies greed and pride. He's the antagonist of the film and sort of represents unbridled greed, deception, and pride, vices condemned in Christian theology. And then a confrontation with sin. So McClane's confrontation with Gruber can be seen as a symbolic clash between the selfless good and selfish evil, a recurring theme in Christian narratives. And then number 3, the point that I had is community and unity. So the hostages in the Nakatomi Plaza represent a microcosm of human community. McClane's efforts to protect them emphasizes the Christian ideal of solidarity and the value of each human life. The film underscores that salvation often comes not through isolation, but through actions taken on behalf of others.
Yeah, I would say that, one of the strengths of the movie is that it opens itself up to multi-layered analysis. And certainly I haven't looked into it, but you just know that people have analyzed the film in terms of the battle, the futile battle amongst toxic masculine, whatever. And it's also, it could be some sort of capitalist allegory, but those are sort of easy analyses to make of the movie. And
right.
And certainly, I'll just say that the poll on my channel is now 69% giggity, 69% Christmas movie.
Mine is 69%, or now it just turned to 70. Now back to 69. Now back to 70.
Yeah. But
so I have
would
70-30 right now.
And that's good. I'm glad that people have a varied approach to the movie. But I would just say that again. I mean, what is a Christmas movie? We live in a fallen world where we see. Look, man, there was an assassin on the street this week. Yes. I mean, there's this stuff happens, and so we're forced to battle with these things, and we have to find good in them. And I think that obviously, just on the surface, it's a Hollywood movie, and we all know the implications of that. But there are good things that come out of it, and certainly the redemption arc is strong in this.
And then the last two Christian elements that I pulled from it, we kind of already hinted at it. Number 4 is marriage and reconciliation.
Mm-hmm.
McClane's primary motivation is to reconcile with his estranged wife, Holly. The reunion at the film's conclusion highlights the importance of marriage as a covenant relationship, echoing Orthodox Christian views of marriage as a sacrament reflecting the union of Christ and the church. And then number 5 is overcoming despair with hope. So throughout the film, McClane faces seemingly insurmountable odds, but remains steadfast in his mission. His perseverance reflects the Christian virtue of hope, trusting that good will ultimately triumph over evil despite immediate suffering. So those are my 5 sort of Christian elements. And now what I thought was going to be most interesting is I have 19 unique facts about the movie, some of which you guys may already know, but I'm excited to state all these because BLA does not know the 19 facts. I've already told him one. He's like, yeah. So he's probably going to know some of these, but I'm curious to get BLA's response on some of these facts, being such a film aficionado. So
let's go. Yeah.
So actually, I'm going to leave out one. One of them's kind of redundant in regards to it being a Christmas movie. So the first one I'll go with, we'll do 18, is Bruce Willis was not actually the first choice to play John McClane. It was offered to Arnold Schwarzenegger first, then Sylvester Stallone, and then Harrison Ford. And so it wasn't until later that he was actually offered the role. So
do you know one reason why I bet Arnold Schwarzenegger did not take this movie?
No, go ahead.
Aside from the fact that he had Red Heat around the same time as this. He had a couple of movies come out at the same time. He just finished making Predator, but one is that the bad guy's German.
Oh, so, yeah. I didn't even think about that.
So it makes for, first, he's Austrian, and you can't have it wouldn't make sense to change the character to a non-German character. I mean, even though he speaks with an English accent, but he's an East German character, so it wouldn't make sense. It would confuse the audience, and that's one of the strongest elements.
Yeah, that's
in the movie is the provenance of the bad guys. Because even this subverts the normal order of things. In the 80s, the bad guys are always Russians with English accents, and this is slightly different. It makes it slightly unique.
Yep. Number 2 is that this movie is actually based on a novel. So the film is adapted from Roderick Thorpe's 1979 novel, Nothing Lasts Forever, which is a sequel to The Detective, which was actually played by Frank Sinatra in 1968. And the novel has a darker tone, with McClane, named Joe Leland in the book, as an older, more cynical protagonist.
That makes sense. I mean, a lot of these films, I kind of, when I first knew that, I thought that maybe it was a novelization, which is when they write the book after the movie. And It sort of is supposed to give a literary element, more serious element to the movie, but it didn't happen with this one. But that is interesting. Also, somebody brought up in the chat, it was Mud. Mud says Bruce was the only guy who could fit in the air duct. Well, that makes sense.
That's probably true.
You know,
yeah, Sylvester Stallone
I'm actually surprised. Yeah, I'm actually surprised with Stallone. With this one, he probably had prior conflicts. I mean, a lot of times when they say they offered the role, that goes into determining how the movie is made in the first place. And that part of the financing for the movie, you would get big financing if you have a major star to carry the film. You need the name to do that, and that goes into how the movie works out in terms of financing. But it actually works because Bruce Willis wasn't a big name at the time, and so he's a likable person people knew from television, from Moonlighting. But he wasn't a major action. And this made him a major action star. You know, they actually mentioned Arnold and Stallone in the movie. And Planet Hollywood came along after this. And the three owners of Planet Hollywood were Stallone, Schwarzenegger, and Bruce Willis, which was odd when that came out. So,
well, and I read that it was potentially, although that's why I didn't include him in the fact, but it was potentially offered to Frank Sinatra because he played the detective in 1968, which was a film kind of adapted from the original novel. And if what we were just reading that based on the book, that it's an older, more kind of cranky, cynical protagonist, maybe that would fit, but I don't know how. I think Bruce Willis definitely does the part, and I think it wouldn't be the film if Frank Sinatra or Harrison Ford maybe he would have done a good job. Yeah. I feel like it could just be because he did the film, but Bruce Willis fits the film perfectly.
Well, Harrison Ford wasn't even in the Jack Ryan movies yet. Remember, it was Alec Baldwin, and that was and Harrison Ford was Patriot Games, so that was after that. Even though he was an action star, and it does have an element of "Give me back my family." Get off my plane. So that would make sense.
When was the first Indiana Jones?
Well, first Indiana Jones was 1980. So he was a major action star, but he wasn't in he's in Indiana Jones and Jack Ryan and Patriot Games and Clear Present Danger, where Patriot Games was after this. Also, Frank Sinatra might be a strange choice to people. I mean, he was too old at the time to make this, but he was an action star. He was, if you've seen Von Ryan's Express, I mean, he was big. Little trivia here. People forget that Frank Sinatra got his start in Hollywood. That's the story. That's part of the subplot of Godfather 1.
Right.
That's how Frank Sinatra got his start. And also,
Frank Sinatra inside the bed was actually reminiscent of how Frank Sinatra got into the business and got his big break.
That's right. And do you know who Frank Sinatra got started in Hollywood? Marilyn Monroe. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Marilyn Monroe was promoted through the mob by Frank Sinatra.
Very interesting. Yeah. So my third interesting fact here is that the Nakatomi Plaza was actually a real building. So the Nakatomi Plaza is actually the Fox Plaza, the headquarters of 20th Century Fox.
Century City,
charged itself rent to use the building during the film. It was still under construction at the time, which worked perfectly for the plot.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Century City. The credits to the movie thank the residents of the Century City Plaza Towers, which just seems to be like a bunch of people like Hart Bachner living in the same place.
Now, I'm curious if you knew this one. I suspect you probably did, BLA. But my fourth fact is that this was Alan Rickman's first film role.
Yes.
So he had never acted in a movie before Die Hard. He was a renowned stage actor.
He was.
But transitioned seamlessly in this film, and his portrayal of Gruber became iconic, often cited as one of the greatest movie villains of all time.
Yeah, I knew that because Alan Rickman was a RADA guy, the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. He was known for his portrayal of Hamlet in the West End. Mainly, that was one of his big roles. He was a Royal Shakespeare guy, and that was one of the reasons that they chose him, because he gave a kind of gravitas to the role. So this and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, right? I'm going to eat his heart out with a spoon, right? Are the two big Alan Rickman movies, and Also, it's interesting. A lot of people, did you know that Alan Rickman was Skittles? Did you know that? And it's funny because in his portrayal of Hans Gruber in the movie, you can see that he makes Hans Gruber also a Skittles character in this,
Right.
which is interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
My next fact. So BLA is doing pretty good. Seems like we haven't shocked him yet. Number 5 interesting fact is that Hans Gruber's death scene was a surprise. When Gruber falls from the building, Rickman was dropped from a 40-foot height onto an airbag. The filmmakers released him on the count of 1 instead of 3 to capture a genuine look of surprise and terror.
Yes. Yeah. And they sort of Bodie in Point Break. I don't know if he like explicitly took from this, but in Point Break, when Patrick Swayze jumps out of the airplane backwards, he does this. It's the same sort of genuine look that you get with Hans Gruber. So the scene when he's skydiving and he says rock and roll, and that's when he's robbing the bank. But when he falls backwards out of the plane, that was a real skydiving scene, and that studio wrestled with how to ensure him doing that. So he was already a licensed skydiver or whatever in that scene. Not the whole scene isn't all acrobatically photographed in the movie. Some of it is on a set, but that shot, the important shots in a movie, which are full face-on shots in the midst of a big dramatic sequence, are the key to a movie. You have to have a close-up like that, and you can, it's great. I mean, this is almost a Kubrick / Oliver Stone way of doing things, which is to genuinely surprise the actor or terrify the actor, because the acting element is there's no other way to get it. So right. That scene with him in slow motion coming out, which by the way in the movie mirrors his entry, because when he enters into the party, you notice that there's a quick slow motion scene with the guys fanning out of the elevator, right, and he's slowly coming out. It's the same with him exiting. We get this. I mean, it's really one of the best death scenes you've ever seen in a movie. It's so good. Yeah.
All right. So far, BLA's 5 for 5. So let's hit, fact number 6 is that Die Hard was filled with improvised dialogue and humor. So from what I found, many of Bruce Willis's lines were in fact improvised, including the famous "Yippee-ki-yay" MFer. The line became so iconic that it's now synonymous with Willis's his career and is a defining moment in action cinema. But that was totally improvised.
Yeah, I didn't know that. But I wonder. But it makes sense. It makes sense in the film because, again, one of the reasons they got Bruce Willis was because he was a likable comedic, sort of comedic actor. So a lot of times the dialogue, there are continuous rewrites of the sides in a film. And so I wonder if they improvised that in the scene and then they just kept it in the final cut. But I didn't know that. So that's good.
Number 7 is that this film was a groundbreaking use of practical effects. So most of the film's explosions, gunfire, and stunts were done with practical effects, which added to the realism. For instance, the elevator shaft jump scene was a real stunt performed with careful rigging and precise camera angles.
Yeah, well, the explosions in the film are also the same way. And by the way, there's an element of Terminator 2 that was taken from this, which is, you remember when the obligatory Asian terrorist who is in all the Lethal Weapon movies, he's the guy who's always torturing people with the electric rods, like when they're strapped to the bed. There's a great scene where he's eating like the Snickers bar that he looks down, double takes at the Snickers bar in the glass. Right. But when he's on the ground and the SWAT team comes at him and they say just wound them, and he starts to shoot him, like he doesn't shoot him in the knees like he does in Terminator 2, but it's the same. It's almost the same scene, and the explosive scenes are there's very little CGI in the movie, so. Yeah, so that's great.
And then number 8, maybe not as surprising for some of the viewers and yourself, but was the cultural impact of the ho 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 scene. So the scene where McClane writes, "I now have a machine gun, ho ho ho," on a dead terrorist sweatshirt, became an iconic moment that blended dark humor with the film's Christmas setting and is often parodied and referenced in pop culture. So that was a transcending scene. Number 9, McClane's bare feet. So McClane spends most of the movie barefoot, adding a layer of vulnerability rarely seen in action heroes. This choice came directly from the book and was inspired by the advice to walk barefoot on carpet for long flights to relieve stress.
Yeah, I didn't know that it came from the book. So there you got me.
There we go. We've got 2 on BLA.
Yeah.
Number 10, fact 10, the FBI helicopter scene paid homage to the Vietnam War, something that you actually already hinted at.
Yeah.
And so the line, just like effing Saigon, was intended.
I was in middle school, dickhead. Yeah.
Was intended as a satirical nod to the cavalier attitudes of war-hardened soldiers, and also highlighted the disconnect between bureaucracy and real danger.
Yeah. Well, there's not only the air cav death from above scene, which is explicitly Vietnam, but there's also the reaction to that, which is very clever in the movie, because McClane is I think he's a former Marine in the movie. I mean, he's got a tattoo. He's got a tattoo on his bicep, which is never in close up, but I think it's some sort of Marine. It's not a Semper Fi, but it's some sort of, it's to be expected that he would be some sort of Vietnam vet or something in the movie. And when the building blows up in one scene, the setting for Nakatomi Corporation, which is a Frank Lloyd Wright, it's Frank Lloyd Wright designed. I mean, it's falling water. So he dives into the water like Rambo to hide, and there's jungle foliage. So there's this juxtaposition between the jungle and the movie, and the urban setting. So it makes it a sort of subplot, a sort of Vietnam subplot, which ties in with the Cold War sort of proxy war that's going on in the film.
Right. And then number 11 is a revolutionary everyman hero. So before Die Hard, action heroes were typically invincible, muscle-bound superhumans like Schwarzenegger's Commando, Predator. McClane relatably, vulnerability, and his frequent mistakes broke the mold as a new standard for an action protagonist.
Yeah. I'm not sure that it broke the mold. It broke the mold for the 80s.
Okay.
But he's a kind of Charles Bronson character.
Interesting.
Because he's a cop. He's out for vengeance, and he's a relatable sort of cop. But it definitely broke the mold for the 80s, except for, well, Rambo First Blood is kind of the same character. I mean, Stallone is an unassuming, humble character who's he looks like my thesis with that is that he's a Phoenix program survivor. That's why he's a lone wolf, Green Beret, and he's
the 70s Burt Reynolds wolf.
Yeah, there you go, a lone wolf. Yeah, so he's sort of making his way as a drifter through this town, but he's not a muscle bound. He's not what Rambo later became.
Right.
But yeah, he does, and he's in like his pleated pants, and he had his sweater on, and now he's got his tank top on, and he's not, but you're right, he's not roided up like Schwarzenegger in Predator. Yeah.
Or The Rock, now typical for some of those types of films. So number 12, the film was shot almost chronologically. So unlike most films, Die Hard was shot in near sequential order to help Bruce Willis and Alec Rickman develop their characters naturally over time.
Yeah, I knew that one, and it makes sense with the film, and that is rare. That is extremely rare with a movie. But it also makes sense with the movie because of the setting, because films that are shot in a non-linear fashion are often you have on location, and so we have characters in different sites. Yeah, so they have to take advantage of the time sequences, but this is all mainly inside. Even when you see outside, it can be done with screens or with a panel painting on a window, so it makes sense. But it's interesting that it also helps with characterization, because the two actually have very little face-to-face interaction, and that works in the movie because when they finally see each other, Alan Rickman transforms. He pretends to be this scared, guy. Oh no, don't shoot me. No, it's a great scene.
And Technogore Graphics, shout out to you, brother. God bless you. Hope everything's going well. And he said if you see something, do something way of being. Before we got the, if you see something, be gay, do nothing, that's promoted in the world. And I only say that because Daniel Penny's trial got dismissed today, or at least the manslaughter charge. And so it is very interesting that juxtaposition between the John McClane character and this sort of ethos in America right now, where people are almost scared to help another person. We've seen people get mugged, people get beat up on the street, women getting punched, and their handbags taken. And I just highlighted that because it is a very interesting juxtaposition.
I've got some trivia for the folks at home. Do you know where that line comes from? It's a take on a different movie, not quite an action movie, but it is a classic. Does anybody know? It's a take on that. I'm going to give it to you. It's from
Your time's up.
it's from Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Oh, okay.
When you have to shoot, don't talk. The guy's in the bathtub.
Yeah,
and he's being threatened, and he's got the pistol under the water, and he shoots him. There you go.
There you go. All right. Fun fact number 13. We'll see if we can get BLA on these last 5. John McTiernan's reluctance to direct. So director John McTiernan initially turned down the project, and he was worried that it would be too violent. He agreed to direct only after suggesting changes to make McClane more likable and the story more human.
Did not know that. Makes sense, but I did not know that. So you got me.
There we go.
Good.
Hell yeah. And then number 14 is a hidden anti-corporate critique within the movie. The film subtly critiques corporate greed and hubris as the Nakatomi Corporation's vaults filled with riches becomes a central object of desire for Gruber and his gang. This critique resonated during the late 1980s, an era of economic excess.
Yeah, we kind of mentioned that because I said an anti-capitalist sort of tint to the movie, and also the sort of globalism that's tied in with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Fact number 15, Hans Gruber's accent was an improvisation. So the scene where Hans Gruber pretends to be an American hostage, oh God, don't kill me, was not in the original script. Rickman improvised the accent after John McTiernan discovered he could mimic American speech convincingly.
Well, what's brilliant about that scene is that the English have a critique of Americans trying to do English accents. If you've ever heard, what's the Denzel movie where he tries to do an English accent? It's so bad. But the English are just as at fault as this, because an English accent, maybe I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who hears it, but when the English do an American accent, if you've ever seen Benedict Cumberbatch in a movie, he does a terrible American, and I don't really care. I mean, that's kind of a low tier thing to criticize in terms of films, but it's not good. They speak an English accent is more forward in the mouth, and they talk like this. The jaw moves more. An American accent is more sort of at the back of the mouth, and we tend to not open our mouth as much when we talk. And that's what Alan Rickman does when he does the American accent. But it's actually brilliant because he's an Englishman playing an East German with an English accent, imitating an American.
Right.
So it's actually the character improvising in the scene. So it makes sense that Alan Rickman would improvise the improvisation. Right. It's pretty good.
And then fun fact, number 16 is a secret nod to James Bond is in the film. So McClane's radio banter with Gruber, who are you? Just another American who saw too many movies, is a cheeky nod to the perception of action heroes as larger than life figures. Gruber was even modeled after a Bond villain archetype.
Yeah, he's actually not. So he's named for one of the characters in what's the movie Flint? Is it In Like Flint? Yeah, I think it's In Like Flint, which is a takeoff of a Bond movie. But there's a character named Hans Gruber in the film. So it's a takeoff of a takeoff.
Yeah.
But he is like a Bond villain. I mean, he might as well be in a Bond film.
Yep. And then number 17 here is the endless copycats and the influence the movie Die Hard had. So Die Hard revolutionized the action genre, as we already highlighted, so profoundly that countless films were pitched as Die Hard in a location. Examples would include Speed, Die Hard on a bus, and Under Siege, Die Hard on a battleship.
Yeah. Under Siege 2, Dark Territory on a train. Yeah.
So I thought that was a little interesting one. And then the final unique fact, number 18, the film was nominated for Academy Awards. So despite being an action movie, Die Hard received 4 Oscar nominations for
Let me guess.
sound, film editing.
I was okay. I was going to get him. Damn, sound was going to be the first one. Okay.
Okay, well, guess the other 2. There's 4. So
Is
we
it
got
sound editing, film editing? I don't know the other ones. What are they?
visual effects
Uh-huh.
and sound effects editing.
Okay.
A rarity for the action genre.
Mm-hmm. Again, it's not really that rare. I mean, Apocalypse Now was nominated for 2 Academy Awards, and that was sound editing was one of them. I mean, the sound in the movie is fantastic. So, but yeah,
but maybe
4
more
nominations.
So, I mean, they're more so for the 80s, late 80s time period.
Yeah, and film, especially for 4 nominations that is pretty unusual.
Right. So those are my interesting facts. We got BLA on a few of them. I think about 4 or 5 of them. Yeah. So I'm happy with that. I figured he would know most of them.
Well,
I did not go over with these with him ahead of time. The only one was that Bruce Willis wasn't the first choice, which he already knew.
Well, I'm way better at this than Jamie's trivia for Stargate, which I was terrible at because we played Stargame, the trivia, and I did not get Project Penguin or Dr. Dolphin in that. Who are the original race of the police? And I was like, I don't know, the Numa. I don't know. So,
right.
So this is more my element. Yeah.
And then before we get into the film, because now we're going to click through the film and kind of talk about our analysis, is we had a few super chats that came in and they had more specific questions. So just not to derail the topic. So shout out to Mud. He threw $10 in over on BLA's channel. He says, derailment question. Have you read Starship Troopers from 1959?
Negative. Have not read it, but I like what you say there. Yeah.
He said the philosophical discussions are pretty based. Some complaints from a Christian point of view, but I like it, but kind of ruined the movie for me. So
no, I haven't, but thank you, Mud. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mud. And Mud has been a 20-month member on my channel. Thank you so much, Mud. He said Bruce was the only guy who could fit in the air duct. Very true. Yeah. And then I had a question over on Dono Chat by Jay Hamza. Shout out to Jay. God bless you, brother. Thank you for the generous $20 super chat. He said, what about Nightmare Before Christmas? Thoughts on that? And thank you for the consistent work. God bless you and your family. Well, God bless you, Jay, and your family. Hope you guys have a blessed nativity and Merry Christmas. What is your thoughts on A Nightmare Before Christmas? Is that a Christmas movie? That may be another good review movie.
That might be a good one to cover. I think I've covered Coraline. But that's like a Jack Skellington movie. And I didn't see it when it came out. And I kind of avoid those movies. I don't like those animated stop motion movies. I never really liked the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer stop motion. I don't like claymation or anything like that. It's always been freaky to me. But I don't know. I'll have to see that one. I know that I covered a Silent Night, Deadly Night last year. And that was a slasher Christmas flick. So
I've seen people argue that the Nightmare. So you've never seen Nightmare Before Christmas? That's a shocker. That is a shocker.
I've avoided it. I've avoided it. I avoid that like I avoided Hellraiser and Jacob's Ladder. Like all 3 of those are for some reason in the same category as me. It just freaks me out.
Yeah, it's been a while since I watched Nightmare Before Christmas. I don't know. I don't know if I would. Because it has a lot of Halloween themes in it, obviously, but it has all the different kind of holidays in it. If you watch it, like the Easter Bunny, Santa, Jack is the jack-o'-lantern from Halloween. But I could certainly see that being a Christmas movie because he eventually takes over the role of Santa Claus. So I haven't watched it in a while, but I would venture to put that into the Christmas. I've seen Nightmare Before Christmas decorations. So clearly, just like Die Hard, whether it was the intention of the directors or not, the American audience has certainly put Nightmare Before Christmas into the Christmas category.
Those movies just activate my MK Ultra programming. And so I'm terrified of them. There's one more thing about Die Hard that it's coming back now, and that is that David Harbour he was in a Christmas movie that came out last year. He's the guy in Stranger Things. He was a great character actor before that. And he plays Santa Claus in the new one, but he's a pagan Odin archetype of Santa Claus, which you've covered. You've actually covered that.
Right.
Covered it a few years ago. And it's weird how these things sort of converge with the zeitgeist, but that's sort of coming. There are a lot of like armed Christmas movies coming back now. And it's clearly from Die Hard. So
yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, you ready to dive into the film? Is there anything else you want to say about Die Hard before we start clicking through the film?
Well, let me give a quick shout out to a couple super chats here.
Go ahead, brother.
Before I forget. So thank you to Ethan, who drops me $15 on Cash App, and he says, "For the boys."
Hey,
you,
shout out to Ethan. God bless you, brother.
Yeah,
and Merry Christmas.
And the real John Connor out there drops $10 and he says, "Yippee-ki-yay." Thank you so much, real John Connor.
Hey, God bless you, the real John Connor.
Also, Jason, homeboy Jason drops $10 on PayPal. Thank you so much, Jason. Really appreciate you. And there are a couple. Yeah, I think you got to all the other super chats. So if we missed them, we'll get to them at the end here.
Yep. All right. Well, let's pull up the film now. And unfortunately, we can't play any audio or play the clips for extended periods. That
this will get
we made that
right away
too many times.
Yes.
Amadeus, we got caught just for clicking through the film like this, hitting the next scene button. So we may do a little bit of that just to try to catch scenes if I can't stop it on the cursor. But we've had one too many experiences with the copyright on YouTube. Yeah. So no audio.
Especially this one. This one's heavily protected. So, yeah.
But I'm going to let you do most of the covering of the film if you'd like. So it kind of begins here, as you already mentioned, or somebody mentioned in the chat, the opening scene here with the man giving advice to Bruce Willis. Again, as it begins, obviously, if you've already seen the movie, you know what happens, but you're kind of trying to piece together. So this guy's on a plane, he's landing in LA. What exactly is going on? He's having this kind of conversation with a business, what looks like a successful businessman on an airplane.
Yeah. And the guy says, I've been doing that. You want to know the secret? I've been doing this for 9 years. When you get out, you make fists with your toes and you walk around, which is interesting because fists are going to play a later role in this. And John McClane looks kind of out of his element here. He looks, there's a big East Coast, West Coast thing happening here. Right. And he's talking to this businessman. And then when he gets up to get his Christmas bear and his luggage, of course, I guess he's got a Smith & Wesson or something in his shoulder holster. And he says, "It's all right. I'm a cop," So right away, this is what's great about the movie is that we don't need to be told things. This is totally fluid with the way that the movie works. This conversation would be real and it would be normal. We don't need to be told, well, when I was working as a cop for 15 years in New York, by the way, my name's John McClane. We don't need that.
Right.
So we just get to know the character right away.
And okay, so moving from this opening scene, and we kind of can see the reference there, as you talked about the toes into fists, which will become, as we already kind of mentioned, and some of the unique facts, reference to the barefoot scenes here. And we see his bear.
Barefoot bear.
Yep. And a gift essentially for his daughter, I would suppose.
Yeah.
And so now he's walking through the airport. We kind of see this stuff. And now we're introduced to the CEO of the
Takagi.
Oh, that was okay.
His name Takagi so it's funny because it's the Nakatomi Corporation, but he's not Nakatomi. He's Takagi. And that's because the corporation is centered elsewhere. It's exterior. So that's back in Japan. And that's the reason why they have the magnetic vault, the electromagnetic vault downstairs. And people forget, my dad explained this to me about negotiable bearer bonds. And the same thing takes place in the movie Heat, which is LA, of course. And it's that, because I remember asking him, he knows about finance. Why would the corporation, why wouldn't they store them in a bank? Well, because the corporation has a better vault than a bank. And because why are they stealing negotiable bearer bonds? Well, because whoever possesses, and I know there's some context with this, but whoever controls the negotiable bearer bonds, has the money, so they need to steal those. And one of the big things with the movie also is, why are they doing this? Why are these guys? They're just average thieves. Well, they're not average thieves. They are heavily armed and financed, and they need to do. I mean, look, this reminds me of when I lived in Northern Ireland for 3 years, and all the time, you had loyalist and nationalist paramilitaries robbing banks because they have to finance their operations. And one of the big operations when I was there was the largest bank heist in UK history, where there was a Harrison Ford movie made out of this idea, which was that the IRA went to the bank manager's house and kidnapped the family, and then never even set foot in the bank. They made the bank manager go to work, steal the money for them, and bring it back to the house. So they, this is I guess par for the course for a bunch of international terrorists with bearer bonds. This is a high finance, high line robbery.
Right. And as we mentioned, it emphasizes the critique of capitalism and a major company that has extensive wealth, where they have $600 million worth of valuables in a basement.
Yeah, $600 million in 1988 is like,
that's a lot.
$4 trillion.
So we can already see in this opening scene, this is where we're going to initially be introduced to his estranged wife, Holly. We see the Christmas tree. They have their corporate Christmas party going on, and we see his wife here. Although we're not sure yet, if you're watching for the first time, who this woman is, but we see that the camera's following her and she's engaging with some of these interesting characters that she works with. Now she's in her office, and we see this woman looking at photos of her children. And once we see this one here, if I could stop it, right? This right,
it's right there.
So
he's purposely out of view.
Right.
You can't freeze it on it because he's purposely out of view.
There we go.
Like we only get a glimpse of him in the background, just like she later is going to push the picture down. So we have this key to the whole kidnapping situation just out of view until Hans Gruber turns around, because she's such a dumb. She's talking to him and she's looking over here where the picture would be. And he turns around and look, oh, what's this? What's this picture? And picks it up and goes, oh, okay, this must be the wife of the guy who's got us under siege here. I will mention one of the great things about the movie is the skylines and the color palette in the movie. I mean, this is like vaporwave dream.
Yeah.
Tell me if anybody ever played the Super Nintendo Sega Genesis Die Hard game, like where you got to go through the various levels of Nakatomi.
I did not.
This is sick, dude. Yeah.
I did have a Sega Genesis, though. Was a big fan of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're kind of being introduced at this point as the viewer. You've picking up on John and Holly being connected in some way, and we see he's still making his way.
I love
lovers being
California.
Lovers being reunited.
Oh yeah.
Comments on California. Here we see the young limo driver,
Argyle,
who this is
great.
His first time actually being a professional limo driver.
Well,
and we see John sit in the front seat. So you can see that he's not used, or certainly not somebody who would be catered to, who would be in the back of a limo and sort of this royalty treatment.
Yeah, this is great. Well, first of all, the fine ass girl who appears and looks like she's running towards McLean at the beginning and then runs towards handsome Chad in the background, right? And he's like, I love California. Then he turns around and sees Argyle with the sign up, and there's a slight awkwardness. He's like, and it takes a good few seconds in the movie, and he's like, what do we do now? They're both, this shows his humility, right? By the way, I've every time I'm in a limo, I ride in the front seat with Roosevelt or whoever's driving it. And I love their back and forth here.
Yeah,
it's great. It's great dialogue.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And he's hitting John with some very inquisitive questions, and is already picking up on the estrangement between him and his wife in this attempt for reconciliation.
Yeah.
So we kind of learn more about the relationship dynamic. We see the Nakatomi Plaza here that they're moving towards.
Jan de Bont. People forget Jan de Bont is the director of photography of this, who also was the director of photography for Hunt for Red October. Jan de Bont became a director on it in his own right. Look at you see the sunset right there. I mean, this is look at that. Joel Silver, Lawrence Gordon. I mean, this is a big time. This is a high concept film. Look at the skyline. This is a great movie, dude.
And so now he's offering John. He's like, do you think, you got a place to stay? Not sure. Well, I'm going to go hang out in the parking garage. Let me know, if your old lady is going to let you stay, just let me know. I'll be hanging out there.
Hey, Moldy in the chat says, anyone seen the new Beverly Hills Cop movie? Yes, it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's so bad. It's just Eddie Murphy trying to embrace his Skittles hood. He's just a gay man in the movie trying to be a cop. It's so bad. But and it's interesting you bring up Beverly Hills Cop because it's the same sort of movie. Guy from the outside, humble, makes his way into LA, and it's all about like what is LA like. That, of course, was a Don Simpson, Jerry Bruckheimer movie. So that sort of provides again a kind of provenance for the movie. And also when he's going around this little cul-de-sac here and he walks in, notice just the architecture of the movie. I mean, this is something that's disappeared in terms of corporate culture. Everything now we know is like aesthetic terrorism and deadening the senses. Everything's a gray box. And this is an example of when in the 80s, say what you will about, high finance and corporations and stuff. But when you walk in, it's beautiful. There's money there. And it's like it's clearly Frank Lloyd Wright. It's supposed to be a kind of American version of the Nakatomi Corporation. Notice the stonework. And then when they go up into the lobby of the actual company.
And Mud just threw in $5 on my channel. He says, how do I sponsor a stream for you guys? You can go to my website and click on the store or product page. And it's like the second or third option for a sponsored stream. He says that book really deserves attention from either / both of you. It's quite the prophetic book from 1959. He's referencing Starship Troopers from 1959. Yeah. So we can talk about that. Depending on how big the book is, I got a lot of reading and other streams to get through, but, Mud, you can always send me a email or BLA and BLA and I can coordinate. So anyways, moving forward here. So John's getting ready to enter into the Nakatomi Plaza. And this is exactly what you're talking about. Some of the woodwork, the way it looks, the glass, we see the Christmas tree, we see a touch screen. So this is highly advanced 1980s touch screen. To find the directory of who you're going to talk to. And then, of course, now he sees that his wife is not going by his last name anymore, but her maiden name.
I love how he touches it. He's punching the screen. This is like walking into a patient first or something. Now, everything is self-service. So it kind of predicts that in the movie. I mean, the guys the lobby guy's a real jackass too. He's a little too informal with McLean. Yeah, it'll help you find your zipper too, asshole, or whatever.
Right.
But he's a stranger in a strange land here. He does not, and it's funny because New York being what it is, even New York is a different place than LA. And McLean is used to, dealing with jagoffs in New York or whatever, but he gets to LA and it's a whole different stratosphere.
Right. And so here we see John enter into a scene in which he's clearly the outsider. Everybody's much more formally dressed. We see classical music being played, people being very rambunctious and sexual and drinking. And we'll see one of the employees of the company sniffing a line of some white powder.
He's doing some of that Cochabamba up in her office.
Some of that go-go dust.
Yeah, he's got shoulder pads. He's got like a Valentino suit on. Yeah, very expensive.
Probably got Quaaludes in his desk as well.
Oh hell yeah, dude! He's on Percodan.
Yeah. And so we see John. He walks in. He grabs one of these drinks he was offered by one of these butler type figures that's working the party. And takes one sip, finds it absolutely disgusting. Again, indicating and symbolizing that this is an atmosphere and an environment in which he's clearly uncomfortable for, and really doesn't have a taste or a palate for all these highfalutin beverages or alcohol. I assume this guy's more of a whiskey beer drinker.
Oh yeah. Corrado in the chat says the way she treats McLean early on is unacceptable. Well, yeah, I mean that's why he's there. He's trying to salvage his marriage. I mean, she's a busy businesswoman who's she's not only left it, but she left the whole coast, right? She's gone off to do her thing.
She broke up her family because he seemingly didn't support her career.
Right. And I think that, to say that he simps for her, I don't know, is kind of muddying the word simp. I mean, I don't see McLean as a simp. He's trying to talk to his wife,
right?
And she's being held by a terrorist, as a hostage. So he's trying to talk to Al. about how he's going to get back together. Now he does say the same, the thing about I should have supported you in your business and all that. Well, I mean, they're married, so he wants to get him back together. She ends up leaving him anyway, so
Right.
fuck it. But yeah, I
So,
don't think it ruins his character. There's Takagi.
yeah, and here he's introduced to Takagi, and he asks him, how's the limo? So clearly he knew he was coming. He knew that he's the husband of Holly, which we'll find out here in just a second. You're not going to notice it through clicking through the scenes, but they make the comment, at least at one point, that these women who we assume are selling products of some sort, they want to present themselves as single women based on the appetite of some of the consumers and buyers that are working with the Nakatomi Corporation. So very interesting that a married woman will portray herself as unmarried for a corporate job, but that's what we're being introduced to here. So he clearly knows this is a husband and knows that his wife is pretending and working for him as if she's a single woman.
Yeah, I like how Takagi recognizes him when he walks in and knows who he is. He's got a smile on his face.
I mean, look at him. He's
him.
got a flannel on, a jacket. He's in jeans. Everybody else are in suits, elegant dresses, classical music's being played.
Yeah.
Kind of stands out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
And
but he treats him really well because he wants to treat Holly well.
Right.
Also,
and I don't know if I'll be able to stop it, but
look, there he is.
Here we go. So this dude's doing
a
line of blow right off the desk when he's walking. You can still kind of see the white powder on the desk there.
This is a great Christmas party up to this point, right? With this guy. Love this guy.
Yeah. So you're already again being introduced to the kind of debaucherous environment that his wife is working in this big city of LA. This is an East Coast New York guy, police officer, and he's in this high-rise, wealthy corporate office, and people are doing blow. People are, as we'll see, are having probably promiscuous sex, and John himself is kind of threatened that his wife may be participating in some of these events.
Yeah, missed some, right?
Yeah, and he's doing it at his wife's desk.
Yeah. Your wife Holly, she's kind of a big deal around here, right? Yeah, I gave her a Rolex myself, genuine. So here comes Holly.
Yeah, here comes Holly, and this is the first time they've seen each other. And at one point before this, when Holly was calling the housekeeper, which is a Hispanic woman, she asked if John contacted her. So she has been, even though she has, in a sense, kind of broken up the family, deep down, she is hoping that he will reach out to her, apologize, or reconcile this situation one way or another.
Yeah, and by the way, when she calls,
go ahead.
Yeah, when she calls and Consuela, she says, "Hand Consuela the phone," and you notice this. This is what sells the movie. When she says, "Oh, he's on the way," so keep a room open for him or whatever. You notice the smile on Consuela's face. Based Hispanic woman wants the family to be reunited. She's taking care of. Woman. She's got the daughter there. I mean, by the way, who better to have around your daughter than Consuela, right? I mean,
right.
Consuela's there raising the family. The husband's coming home. She's happy about it, so that's good.
So we can see a little bit of tension here between Holly and John, and certainly.
Look at that. Look at this expression. This guy is the number one douchebag jagoff in a movie.
Yeah, but he plays it so well. Like you mentioned, I think when we were backstage before we went live. Yeah. Like even though he is like a character you despise and really have ire towards, he plays it incredibly well. Even the phone call as an actor, the phone call where he's pretending to know John really well and they're like old time friends. Yeah. He does it in very, very well.
He's so good. He's also, it's weird because he has this beard and he kind of mirrors Hans Gruber. So he thinks that they're in the same level, right? And Hart Bochner, by the way, is a great actor. He's in a Francis Ford Coppola movie called Tetra, which probably people haven't seen. It's from Argentina. It's one of the only other films I can name him in, but he's just very good. Right. He's very good at this. Look at him. Yeah, babe.
And so we see now that the terrorists, they're inside this Pacific courier,
Mhm.
I don't know, truck.
A lorry. Yeah. Yeah.
And he is they're getting ready to do this heist. We see John trying to talk with his wife here. He's in the wife beater, as BLA was talking about, has his shoes off, trying to get comfortable. People break in here because they were getting ready to have sex. Again, demonstrating the sort of debaucherous environment of her colleagues.
Yeah. It also, by the way, it also shows how she has no boundaries in the movie. People continuously invade the space that she has. Like the guys in there doing blow off the desk. The people break into her office to think that they can do whatever they want in there. And it kind of foreshadows
her private bathroom to have sex.
That's right. And it foreshadows in the movie how their sort of space is open to this kind of corporate home invasion by these terrorists. But look at the walls. I mean, even she's got a fine bathroom, and she even says one point, that she's going to get the boss's bathroom or whatever. But she, he's trying to freshen up, and they have a real lovely scene with each other where they, she expresses to him like she misses him and she wants him back, and then they start arguing with each other again.
Right.
So this is like they say in Pulp Fiction, this is pride fucking with you.
Right. Yeah. The same old argument for why they're actually separated comes back up.
Yeah.
And so here we see the front desk guy. He's getting ready to get blown away.
Yeah.
This guy's a pretty funny character.
He is, and he sucks so much. This is, by the way, one of the only 80s black guys without a mustache. That's another sort of trope in the movies. One of the other ones, the only other one I can think of is Bill Duke in Predator, which is also a John McTiernan movie. But we have the long-haired blonde Eurotrash guy coming in behind him, and he gets one for the goal or whatever. This guy, he's the hacker. He's the black nerd hacker.
Yeah, he uses sports reference. So throughout the movie, he's always using sports references to describe their own terrorist takeover.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's where this film combines humor and violence all at the same time. I mean, it has a great feel to it. And so now they've already killed the front desk. He's getting ready to hop in behind the computer and start activating and deactivating aspects of the elevators, the security system, cameras, that type of stuff. And this
Rusty,
was the scene that you were mentioning earlier.
Yes.
I'll see if I can slowly flip through it. Describe that. You mentioned how much you liked this scene.
Well, let me say first that Rusty makes a great point in the movie. I'd forgotten about this since last night. That he's wearing a Stanley Kowalski shirt, and that is absolutely that's spot on in the movie. I said that out loud when I was watching it last night. That he is basically Marlon Brando in a Streetcar Named Desire is where the popularity of the T-shirt came from, and so we sort of have him as a Stanley Kowalski. He's a brute guy. And that's John McClane in the wife beater in the tank top. So that's definitely spot on. It's a kind of visual cue for the audience to just know subconsciously that this is going to be the masculine hero in the movie.
Right.
So yeah, the entrance here, this is one of the best entrances of a villain in a movie. This is so well done. So we see the bad guys entering from the back of the truck, which they probably hijacked or, in Heat, they've stolen the truck or whatever has been arranged. And we get this cast of supporting characters who fans out like we're on a stage. We get the blonde guy. We get the older guy. We get the curly haired East German guy. The guy on the right there, the blonde guy right there is the villain in The Living Daylights, the Bond film. Great villain.
So there's another Bond connection.
Yes. And then we see in the middle right there, we get the Huey Lewis guy. I mean, this guy looks exactly like Huey Lewis. And I will say, before I forget, that the guy who plays the front desk man, the Huey Lewis character, is by far the most psychotic person in this movie. He is very good at, I had $50 on this game. Got his cowboy boots up on the desk. But that guy right on the left. But he has genuinely the most psychotic look in the whole film. And when we see them come out of this truck, Hans Gruber comes out of the middle like he's a prince or something. He's got the flowing, the overcoat like it's a cape, and he's clearly in charge. He's the bearded wise guy in the middle. He's clearly in charge. He's the villain in the film. Very good. Very good.
Yeah, this is a great scene as the villains enter in. We see them turning off the elevators,
Yeah.
locking the gates, and then coming in and setting up the figure that you were just talking about as the new front desk guy.
Yeah. They easily take out the security guards, who are a couple of just average Joes. Don't think anything's going to happen here. They lock it down. They got the key cards. This guy races off to try to cut the phone, jack into the phone lines and cut him down. And then his brother
Right.
comes in with the saw, knocking out communication. So it's also really well done in this movie how they do kind of explain later that these guys are from some sort of East German terror cell, but these guys are clearly military trained, paramilitary guys that have become mercenary guns for hire in highline robbery. Very cool. Yeah, that's a cool scene. Here's Argyle trying to talk to his lady.
Girlfriend, having a good old time in the back seat. Eventually, he's going to pull out some whiskey.
Yeah. I love this kid.
Whoa. Can't have too much of that. YouTube will definitely flag us for any of that. But here we can see that, again, as the terrorists take over, they start opening the doors. John is in the private bathroom of his wife's office.
Yeah.
And he can hear everything going on. He can hear these guys. They come in, they start shooting their fully automatic weapons. He immediately grabs his pistol, grabs his police holster. And we see that the two people that broke into the private bathroom, they just went over to the next office and started doing their thing. And so we're seeing right here is when these terrorists are kind of taking over and getting everybody under control.
Yeah.
And John sneaks into the stairwell.
Yes. This guy's laughing about it. I don't know what he's saying in German, but it must be like, yeah, we got some nude bitches or something. They're enjoying it. This is cool. This is really cool because it adds see his tattoo right there.
Yep.
So he's got some sort of military tattoo, but this adds an element of, I don't know, variety to the film, because the fact that the building is unfinished and still under construction adds some sort of thematic symbolism with the film. It's like everything's unfinished. The story is going to be unfinished. Christmas is unfinished, and they're in the process of building this, mega global corporation capitalist monolith, but the top floors of it are still unfinished. We still don't know who's in charge. We don't know who's at the top of it. And the fact that McClane makes his way, I mean, this is also I forgot one of the big 9 elements in this, because what was it? What was it they said? It was, yeah. Oh yeah.
Sorry,
right.
BLA is taking assistance.
Yeah, I've got my assistant here.
Helper.
I'm sorry. So when they're on the plane, it's funny because they're on a plane and there's a building, and when they come in, the guy next to him says, "I've been doing this for 9 years," and then he says, "I'm a cop. I've been doing this for 11 years."
Nice pickup.
Yeah, and although we have
picked that up last night,
we don't have twin towers. We've got a singular tower, but we do have flying aircraft flying into the around the building. It gets blown up by the building. We have plastic explosives in the stairwell of the building, blowing up the foundation. And so there's probably a schizo interpretation of Big Nine with this.
That's par for the course with you. I think about almost many of our movie reviews, you pull out a Big 9 connection. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah, no.
Yeah, Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
So here we kind of see again Hans Gruber, his gang of terrorists. They are now getting everybody into place, letting them know that they are now in control, and they begin trying to find who is in charge here. And they know everything about, what's the Japanese gentleman's last name?
Takagi.
And
Yeah.
so they know everything about Takagi, his education, where he went to school, everywhere he's worked, and they're trying to ask them for him to identify himself, which Holly is pulling his arm, asking Takagi not to do so. But I would assume they already
He
know
already
what the
knows.
dude looks like if they know everything about his life.
He already knows. He's just doing this for, some flair. I mean, he's a dramatic guy, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm Hans Gruber. I'm kind of an unscrupulous guy. I mean, the way he comes out of the elevator, also it turns into slow motion. Oh, the terrorists are entering, and he knows with all the look at Hart Bachner in the background, terrified. He knows this old timer isn't going to be the guy, but what he's really looking for is the suit, right? He recognizes him by his suit, which they both have. They're both tailored by, I guess, Jeeves and Hawks #1 Savile Row or something. Oh, I have the same tailor as Arafat, which is he's really proud
he
about
mentions that he loves fashion, right? Hans Gruber mentions that he loves fashion. He makes multiple comments about the quality of Tagagi's suit.
Yeah. And also that scene you were just showing when he enters, that is clearly Frank Lloyd Wright falling water. They've got a damn waterfall coming into the office. And even the steps, even the colorization of the steps. I think with Frank Lloyd, right there. That's Frank Lloyd Wright. The stonework, the red, the stones on the side. They've got the foliage. Don't try to buy a Frank Lloyd Wright house because what I've heard is that if you buy a Frank Lloyd Wright house, you can't change any of the furniture inside because the house is not just the exterior; it's also the design of the interior and all of the furniture that comes with it.
Oh, interesting.
But Frank Lloyd Wright is, the great American architect, I guess, but he also is sort of ironically, I think, kind of contributed to the denigration of, as the aesthetic in America.
Yeah, the aesthetics of America.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's flip back to where we were here. So, let's see. This is where they take Takagi to. They're in his personal office. Here's a model of the plaza that they're in, and it demonstrates a bridge. We're getting ready to see that he really loves. Let's see. There we go. Sometimes I got to hit play just to catch the mouse back up. Let's see if I can find the bridge. There it is.
Terracotta Warriors. Yeah.
There it is. Yeah. All the terracotta warriors and samurai outfits around porcelain, and is talking about this, I guess, project that they're getting ready to do. I think this is, if I remember right, this is going to take place in Japan.
Yeah. They've definitely got a sort of a Brave New World looking bridge happening here. But I think one of the important things is that whenever you see models, miniature models of architecture in a movie, we're supposed to see a meta symbolism within the film for the characters. So now we have the two powerful elements of Globo Corporation looming over the miniatures of all of the city. So everything is under their control. Everything's under their sway. They're inside a building, but the building they're looking at is in miniature. It's saying they can control this. And Hans Gruber, it's kind of annoying how when he walks in, he when he's talking to Takagi, he keeps trying to get one up on him. He's like, I've got the same tailor as you. I've got the same. I'm educated just like you. But it's showing the audience that, again, there's not a there may be good guys and bad guys in the movie, but they're all the same at a higher level.
Right.
Which, I know that's an edgy take for the audience. I'm sure they don't know that. Right.
So moving forward here, so Bruce is kind of listening in on these conversations. Gosh dang it froze again. He's kind of just outside. They take him to the meeting room and they begin probing and asking him to give clearance to the vault in the basement.
Yeah.
So they make their intentions clearly known. Takagi's not sure why they're there, if it has to do with intellectual property that they want, company secrets, and then it becomes clear that they're just there for the goods inside the vault.
Yeah.
And he refuses to provide such, and they eliminate him by shooting him in the forehead.
Yes. Well, he asks him to.
Yeah.
He does the same thing that Hart Bachner does later. He says, I guess you'll just have to shoot me in the head or whatever. Don't do that. but he is kind of bonsai with this thing. He's stoic in the. I mean, he's kind of sweating a little, but he's stoic in the face of what he must know that what these guys are doing. Maybe he doesn't, and he's naive, but he does kind of seem like a living terracotta warrior here before he gets smoked.
Well, and it shows that he has pride. So he talks about how they'll never be able to get it before word gets back to Japan, and that they have. It seemed like they have access to potentially shut this down. He's convinced that they're going to get access to it, and says, "You're going to have to kill me before I'll give you over the passwords or the codes." And so he does, and said, "Fine, we'll do it the hard way."
Yeah. I'm kind of a ruthless guy. You don't know that yet, but I'm here with a gang of terrorists.
Yeah. This is where Bruce is sneaking into the office here through the stairwell and sees all this take place. He can hear what they're asking him, and he sees the murder. So this is right after. So boom. You can see the splatter there on the door, and Bruce sees this and realizes he's dealing with serious criminals here. This is not just amateur stuff.
Well, McClane also clocks everywhere he goes. When he walks into the building, he notices the security cameras. Right, he clearly does it. The camera looks at his eyes and then looks up at the security. Yeah, he knows what he's doing. He knows entrances and exits. He knows the way to the stairwell. He knows fire alarms. He just noticed. He's a noticer. He's been noticing things for at least 11 years.
As we all are becoming more of.
Yes.
And so now he's kind of shocked at what he's seeing, and he has to hurry and get out of that room as he made a quick movement, and some of the German guys saw him. So he hides into, so where we're seeing right here is he's hiding in another room. He locks the door, and through happenstance, they say, okay, it was nothing. And Hans Gruber basically tells his hitmen to move on. And so he's actually saved in this particular scene.
Yeah, this introduces another one of the sort of analytical subplots of the movie, which is that he's a rat in a cage. He's an animal with his back against the wall, but he manages to do that without turning into a beast. He's animalistic in terms of his manhood, but he's not a rat, but he is kind of forced to be a rat in a maze here. I mean, crawling through the air ducts, making his way through the ventilation shaft. I mean, he's good at he's a survivor.
Right. Yeah, that's actually a great symbolic point there. Let's see here. They're wiring the C4. So the whole point is to blow up the whole building once they get the things that they want.
Again, another Big Nine thing, but this is 1993 Big Nine. This is the first one. Wiring, I guess, thermite to the foundations of the building.
Yep.
That guy's got a great mullet.
Yeah, he's got some great German hair in there. That's some great Aryan blood. Look at that jawline.
Shouts out to my good friend in Belfast, David Schultz, because he looks exactly like this guy.
Oh, wow.
Exactly like him.
Some good genetics.
Yeah.
So anyways, we're seeing everything being kind of hooked up here. We're seeing that there's a serious plan underway. And now we're introduced to this vault, this massive vault that has like 7 layers of security that have to be bypassed before it'll eventually open.
Yeah, this is pretty tight. This is the futurism in the movie. Again, the logo of the corporation is pretty futuristic. It looks like Galaga or something.
Yeah, it does.
With all of these, and that probably will provide something for Predator or comes from Predator, I guess, which was the year before this, because it does in a way look like the Predator's helmet or like his spaceship or something. And yeah, with the electromagnetic locks, and we were wondering what's in the vault. Well, what does he think the terrorists are there to get? I mean, the hostage situation, getting money for the hostage situation doesn't seem to be enough. So they're after something in the vault. Right. And I guess bearer bonds would be the thing. When they break into the vault, by the way, I mean, they've got a Delacroix in there. They've got expensive paintings and artifacts in the vault, which is, I guess, normal for these guys, but they're after the bearer bonds.
Right. So next scene. This is a clever scene. So Bruce is upstairs. He's now he's aware that he is, like you said, a sort of rat caught in a cage in a maze of some sort. He can't get out. His wife, all these innocent people are held hostage, and so he comes up with the idea of all the electricity on all the levels are turned off except for um, the 33rd floor here. And so he decides, I'm going to pull the fire extinguisher, which would cause the police or some type of emergency response. And therefore, they'll enter the building and they'll eventually discover what's going on here. And so he pulls the fire alarm, which they quickly deactivate.
I think the building has 32 levels, so it's the
32nd floor.
Yeah, it's the 32nd Masonic level. So then when they ascend to the 33rd degree, they're on the rooftop. You know, they're in the sky. They're at Charlie Manson Theta Clear.
So we see the emergency responders coming down the road here, but they are. Hans Gruber tells his man, "We'll call the police. Tell them that it was a accidental triggering of the emergency system." And so they do so, and these people then turn off their lights and don't come investigate the Nakatomi Plaza. But one of the Germans here can hear Bruce Willis sort of yelling at the window to the police to come see what's going on, and so he discovers that he's in here somewhere. So here we see the first incident in which John McClane is getting ready to kill somebody, but the first one is actually on accident, as we'll see. So he's hiding, he's turning on all the lights, comes around, starts shooting his fully automatic weapon, can't find where John is.
What's that, a HK submachine gun or something? Somebody will know in the chat.
Yeah, I think it's an MP5.
He's got those cool Dahmer. He's got that Dahmer drip on.
Shoot, he looked like he's in fashion now.
Welcome
back. Fashion, the big glasses,
he's minimalist East German Dahmer drip.
Wearing sweatpants.
He's the guy. You remember in the living
fashion in 2024.
You remember in the Living Daylights, the henchman who breaks into the SIS Checkers facility, and he takes out the other Secret Service guys when Bond is there for that meeting, and he's got these like bombs that look like milk bottles. That's the dude.
So
he's cool.
Eventually, they start wrestling. We'll see here in just a second. He's pounding his head against the wall, and here they fall down the stairs, and he accidentally breaks the German guy's neck,
which he uses against the brother later on in the film. Right? I'm gonna break your fucking neck like I did your brother.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we see the first casualty. And we're also seeing the disabling of the first level of security.
I just noticed on the screen right there, the guy had Java, Ceylon. You know, they see right there is what's his code? There's something the system is called Socrates. But anyway, he's hacking. They look Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, he was in Pearl Harbor.
Darwin. So this guy. So we've got in. What does he say in Tropic Thunder? The Asian, what does he say? Pan-Pacific region is my territory. I mean, this is like the third region of 1984, right? We've got the global.
I think it's demonstrating the infusion of the sort of capitalist corporate structure with the military of a previous generation, and how they've kind of taken control of the world, no longer through the military, but through corporate means.
It's also taking on the former, this is kind of a mix of British colonialism with former and British and Dutch colonialism, with the Dutch East India Company and the East India Company with Java and Ceylon. It's just showing, in other words, I know it's just a small thing on the screen, but it's just showing that the corporate globalist structure doesn't change. It just evolves into something else. And now we have a central hub of it.
Right.
And so John McCain, he was the loser. Remember
that? So here, John pulls out the man's ID. He's trying to find out who they are, what their names are.
Yeah.
And he finds that he has a California identification, which he recognizes as a forged ID, a faulty fake ID. But as he makes a comment later, that it's very high quality. So these guys must be very well connected, because it must have cost them a fortune.
Yeah.
And this is one of my favorite scenes. And as we said, a very iconic scene in the movie is he takes the German man that he just killed, puts him in the elevator, and is kind of upset how small his feet are. He makes a comment like, why are all these guys' shoes the size of my sister's?
Which is a continuity issue, because you look at his feet and he's actually got huge feet. It's just that his shoes are too small. It kind of not that I look at feet in movies. Okay. But
right. So he looks over, sees the Santa Claus stuff, and decides to do a sort of Christmas prank. Writes, now I have a machine gun, ho, 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 on the guy's shirt, and puts a Santa Claus hat on him, and then shoots him up through the elevator to the floor. Here we go. Now I have a machine gun, ho, ho, ho. Meanwhile, he is on top of the elevator so he can hear what's going on.
I just realized, is Nakatomi logo, because it's always bothered me, is the Nakatomi logo the Illuminate Confirm logo? Is that it?
It kind of has that vibe to it, for sure.
It does. Yeah.
I'm sure it's going to pop up here later in the movie. It froze again. Okay. So now they come in, and Han sees that one of the guys had been killed, and now they're aware that there is somebody on the loose here that is trying to stop them and their nefarious plans.
That's a monkey wrench in their plan. I mean, he's got it. Excellent situational awareness here, writing down the names of all the characters.
Yeah, Bruce Willis is left-handed. I didn't know that until watching the film.
Well, he takes the left-hand path, so he's of the devil. No.
So he's writing down the names because he wants to know a little bit more about who these people are. So
yeah,
you can see he's marking how many men there are and trying to grab as many names of them as possible. And this is an interesting scene where the elevator shoots back up to the very top floor, and you think he's getting ready to get smashed, but it stops just a few feet. And here we see that it looks like the construction workers are having a pretty good time building out this top layer. They got nudie photos like over the electrical panel and stuff like that.
Hey, Joe, you seen the Barbie twins new issue? Right. This guy's pissed off. What was the other thing I was going to say?
This is where Hans tells one of the German guys that his brother has been killed, which absolutely irates him, and he is ready to kill John if he can find him.
Yeah, he's a fly in the ointment. Certainly, they did not, because when the terrorist came onto the top floor, remember, he said, "Come out, I won't hurt you." He's expecting these people to be docile. He didn't know that they were going to have a cowboy in this situation.
Right.
I mean, you take over a building and then one of your guys gets sent down with ho 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 on it. Now I have a machine gun. They're gonna have to deal with this.
So now he makes his way up to the very top floor, and on the helipad here, and he's looking down and he's trying to kind of see the situation that he's working with. And one of the guys ends up coming out. And this is a very action-packed scene here. So
that looked like the WTC.
Yeah. So go ahead, explain it.
Well, he's about to load his Steyr AUG here, but it looks like a WTC in the background. And Meg Shire in the chat says Century City has the Nakatomi Tower, also has a mini twin towers done by the same architect as the WTC. There you go.
Oh, very interesting. Thank you very much, Make Shire, for that insightful comment.
Yeah, here you go with Eurotrash guy whose brothers just died loading his bullpup Steyr AUG. It's such a sick gun, dude.
That is a sick gun. And so they go up to the top floor as well, see him out there, guns start firing. And they know that he has access communication because they can hear him speaking through it.
Yeah, with the dumb, wonderful lady answering the phone. Is this a
prank
call? Fucking, Okay, I'm trying not to cuss at this dumb beaver. But anyway, um, and then we cut to Reginald Bell Johnson. Hate to be they call me the ruiner. I ruin things. I ruin the good time of people. Reginald Bell Johnson from Family Matters, who plays Sergeant Al Powell, wonderful character in this, really makes the movie. Also, is one of the guys outed apparently at the diddly parties.
Yeah,
because
it sounds like Diddy had his way with him.
Yes, he did. That was the main object of his decadent, depraved desire, was with Family Matters dad. Isn't that a shame?
But at that time, I mean, Family Matters. Family Matters was on during the late '80s.
Yes,
I remember watching it. I wasn't born until '89, so I remember watching it in the early '90s. But what was Family Matters? I mean, that's because I immediately connected the role there with.
Yeah, it was TGIF, late '80s, early '90s. I think this might have preceded Family Matters. I'm not sure, but
Baldy says Carl Winslow MVP.
Yeah, yes, yeah, Carl Winslow, R.I.P.
So
he's great in this movie, man. He's really good.
He was. So Bruce Willis ends up sneaking away from the rooftop by shooting through one of the exterior walls, breaks into this interior chamber here, gets through a fan, and now he's in the elevator shaft again. And they decide to try to find him in a different location.
So now he's in full on asymmetrical warfare here. This is cool, going down the elevator shaft using what's at hand, using the strap from the strap.
Well, and I didn't know until those facts that we laid out earlier that this was a real stunt that they performed. So now I assume, obviously, the stuntman, it wasn't tied to one of these MP5s, these rifles holding it, but the fact that he was probably harnessed in some way, but jumping from the rope to get into the air duct. I mean, that's pretty cool. And look at that scene too.
Yeah, it's cool.
Like just going straight down the elevator shaft.
Hypercube.
Cool scene.
Hey man, he's in Hypercube. He's behind the library in Interstellar right there.
I know. Matthew McConaughey's getting ready to help him out. And then
this is the best part. This is the best part of the movie. This scene is what makes the movie. This right here is like, this is like Lethal Weapon. This is so good because we have a close up. All actors, they'll demand in their contract for the number of close-ups, because you have a character on stage, I mean, on a screen, and you have their full body. But when you have your face 30 feet tall on a screen, that's what you want. And the fact that he's crawling through this thing in a tight space, and that he's lights the Zippo that he's been, that he found on the guy. Come out to the coast, have a few laughs. This is the best. It's so good, dude. He's a funny guy.
He is. No, it's a great. That's what I mean. It's a timeless movie. Just the very action oriented scene. I mean, this right here is an iconic scene.
It's so good, dude. That close up right there. I mean, that is so cool because it shows his this is the Hemingwayan purity of line. This is the grace under pressure.
So he's making his way through the air duct, and they can hear where he is. So they're trying to find where he's at in the building. And this is a pretty suspenseful scene here where they start shooting through it. They stop just short of where he's at, as you can see the bullet hole there in his face. And then the brother, he starts pointing his rifle, and he can see him prodding his rifle into the bottom of the air duct so that he can see or feel if where John is.
Yeah.
And eventually somebody gets his attention, and they end up leaving.
Even the close-up shadow of the prison grate on his face, in that tight space with his pistol pointed down at him is so sick.
Great scene. And here we see Carl Winslow. His name's Al Powell. Coming and doing a security check on the building, and he's the only one with good intuition here. So he really is a great character in the film.
Yeah, it's for my wife. She's pregnant. Sure. Right, loading up on Twinkies.
Right.
Store.
So here's the character that you mentioned was probably the most nefarious of them all. The
Yeah,
most
this
psychopathic.
guy is great. I mean, this is a great example of how blockbuster movies are made of character actors. It's not necessarily the main stars. You have to have supporting actors that we don't know, that we believe. Look at the guy's face in shadow right there, and he's gonna speak to him in a welcoming way. Hey, sure,
Yeah.
come on in, do
Hey,
whatever you want.
officer, can I help
Yeah,
you with anything?
but we can see his intention right there on his face. I mean, look at him. This guy's great.
Yeah. And so he invites the officer in, acts as if he's just watching like some college football games behind the desk. Everything's hunky dory.
Yeah.
And he says, "Can I look around?" Al Powell here, the police officer.
Uh-huh.
And he goes, "Sure." Yeah, this is where he says, "I got $50 on this game." So you can see he's got this little TV monitor.
Notre Dame versus USC, right? And he's got his red shoes, but he's also a cowboy. I am a cowboy looking for anything heavy. Yeah, he's a cowboy just like John McCain.
So they're getting ready to take out Al Powell here. Let's see if here we go. So you can see the guy behind the wall with one of these MP5s getting ready to kill him if he goes any further, but he kind of stops, just says, "What am I doing here? Everything's fine," and decides to leave.
He should have heard the gunfire from the store, but you forget about the ambient gunfire that already exists.
Coming from Compton.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna get you, little American, right? When you have to shoot. They have good tactics though. The guy, no, don't shoot me, and then he ducks, but then he gets smoked anyway.
And meanwhile, while all that's happening, and this is where you think he might hear the gunfire inside the building, is this guy is just unloading on this table while John is crawling underneath it, trying to avoid being shot here. And then eventually he runs out. He's getting ready to load his gun. And this is where John shoots through the table.
Smokes him right through.
Here's the logo. It kind of has an Illuminati confirmed.
It does.
Vibe to it. Certainly a very mechanical, kind of a very technocratic feel to it.
Yeah, for sure.
And so he shoots through the table and takes out the second casualty here. And as he finishes that guy, he begins to try to hit this window with a chair to get the police officer's attention, but he really doesn't need to do much because the other guys just start unloading on the police officer.
Well, yeah. Welcome to the party, pal. And again, glass in movies and in literature functions as the psyche. So the glass is fractured. The plan is fully fractured here. And now we get there's an 11.
Right. I was hoping that it was 9/11.
I know that would have been
really good.
Well, he is 9/11.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Which was an attack on our country, says Norm Macdonald.
So then we see he gets out of the car. He contacts his officers, tell him he needs help now. And all these officers begin to arrive, and Hans is very, very relaxed. So we can see they've already war planned the whole thing out. They know exactly what's getting ready to occur. They know the operations of the FBI and what they're going to demand and what they're going to do. So he's very calm during this situation, despite the building now being surrounded by police.
Yeah.
And so now John, he gets more cigs and more ammunition.
European cigarettes. He gets those Galois or whatever they are. Yeah. And then this dickhead, who plays, I think he plays the same character in Ghostbusters, this reporter guy. He's the pencil neck. They call him pencil neck. I think it's the same guy from Ghostbusters. This guy's a real dick. He doxes McClane and his family. He symbolizes the as AJ says, the chicken neck ninny goblin journalist class with goblin slop and vomit all over him.
Yeah,
that's what AJ says.
He definitely does. Will do anything for a story, anything to grab people's attention.
He's a night crawler. Yeah, he's a night crawler. Yeah, only my husband can do that to a guy. Bonnie Bedelia says.
So at this point, things are certainly escalating in the movie. We see that Al Powell, he's being reinforced. He's kind of talking to his officers, and he's now in conversation with John through radio correspondence here on one of the channels.
Yeah. Call me Roy. I was always partial to Roy Rogers.
And this guy's an idiot. This is the police chief.
Such an idiot.
Who is very skeptical of everything that Al Pal says, including whether or not he's actually listening to a good guy on the inside, if not just being taken advantage of by one of the terrorists.
Yeah.
And so here we see Holly come, and she's asking if one of the pregnant women could lay on a sofa, and if the terrorists would now begin taking the hostages to the restroom because people are about to defecate and urinate themselves.
Speaking of restroom, I gotta go, man. I just chugged 2 Red Bulls. I'll be right back. Okay.
All right. Well, I could too. So let's take a quick, quick break.
Quick
break. Second. We'll be right back.
All right,
people.
Right back.
Okay, I'm back. So, you know, BLA with his Red Bulls, he's always drinking those damn Red Bulls. I'm not surprised that he's thrown down a couple already. Every time I speak with BLA, he's got a Red Bull. So I guess this is a perfect time for me to switch out my nicotine pouch. I've been doing these new Tucker Carlson Alp nicotine pouches. I do recommend. They're pretty good quality. I had to move away from the Zens. It's a big liberal Swedish company who donated a Vice President Kamala Harris. So, anyways, all right. So we're about halfway through the film here, and Holly has talked with Hans about kind of accommodating the hostages, which he agrees to. And now we see, just as you said, the slimy journalist getting on TV and doing anything he can to sort of uncover the story.
Continuous cuts to Argyle. Yeah, drinking his Hennessy in the backseat.
He's sipping the shooters in the backseat next to the
sipping
bear.
on some liquor. Yeah.
Girl. And here we see that the police chief, disregarding what Al Pal has to say about there being hostages, about we have a good guy on the inside. Like, these people are serious. Do not force your way in. He totally disregards all that information and wants to send people in, and they're just going to do it the hard way and just go guns a-blazing.
And we actually learn there is a reason for him treating Al Pal like this. You know, he's been demoted to being a basic traffic cop, but we're going to get that in terms of the communication between the two, why he's being treated like this, but he's going to redeem himself.
Right. And here John is on the channel with Al, and he's telling him like, "Oh no, you guys aren't sending people in, are you? Like, this is a terrible idea."
Yeah.
Like, don't you know that? Aren't you listening to me? Aren't you hearing what I'm saying about the seriousness of these guys? And he's saying, "Look, I'll talk to you in a few." So, and what we see is that the terrorists, they are armed and ready for this situation.
Big time, dude. They got heavy. Yeah, they got heavy armor.
But
it also shows the way that cops were pre-Big 9. I mean, they got a SWAT team here, but there's a great moment when they're running towards the building and they run through the garden, and the guy is running through the rose bushes, and he stops and goes, "Ow!" So the SWAT team guy gets pricked by the kiss from a rose on the grave, and it just shows these guys are not prepared. Even the SWAT team here is not prepared. They are not militarized fully like post Big Nine SWAT teams are. And the way they run up is kind of haphazard. They don't really know what they're doing. I mean, they got the what are they, Klieg lights? Jenny will know. Klieg lights pointed at the thing, but then the guy's going to say they're using artillery on us.
Right.
Great lens flare.
So we see Argyle here. He kind of moves and he hears on the radio that the building is on lockdown. So he drives the limo around and sees that, yep, the gate's down. They are officially on lockdown. And it's kind of the setting is getting ready to, it's beginning to really hit him and dawn on him the situation that he now finds himself in.
Yeah.
And so now the police are charging. I think that Thornbush is getting ready to pop up. I thought that was a humorous little scene. Ow.
Yeah.
Remember that last night.
Yeah.
And Hans tells the guys at the front desk, he says, just injure them. And you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, that's T2. Yeah, Terminator 2.
So
and the Asian guy, again, it's another little touch in the movie. It's the little things in the movie. The fact that he's set up looking at the windows. His job is to man that little station, and he does a double take and looks down and sees the candy bars in the glass case and takes one. I mean, the guy's there to steal $400 million in bearer bonds, but he kind of has a pang of conscience about stealing a Snickers bar from the thing. It's pretty funny.
So now dang it, it froze again. Okay. So they begin to shoot at the police officers. These guys can't hear what's going on, and they begin to shoot out the lights. So now they're no longer covered.
Yeah.
And they send in this LAPD armored vehicle that I guess they're going to charge through the glass front door with, which the terrorists already planned for. Now they're pulling out their rocket launchers.
Yeah, they've got their RPGs locked and loaded. When I used to watch the movie and think, well, I mean, this stuff must cost a fortune. How are they going to finance themselves and steal $400 million? What kind of a return are they going to get? Well, I'm sure they lifted all of the stuff that they've got anyway. So,
and here's all the police officers at the front door. You can see that they're all injured, shot in the leg, stuff like that, bleeding out.
Yeah.
And here comes the armored vehicle. And meanwhile, John is putting together his own explosive device. So he has already taken, what we find out is he has taken some of the C4 that was set up around the building, and he's put it on this chair, strapped a computer to it, and he's going to launch it down the elevator shaft so that when it hits the bottom, it's going to blow up.
Yeah. Death by computer, death by Amiga, IBM death. And he looks for all the charges, right? And he says, fuck it. And he puts them all in there and throws them down the elevator shaft, which is crazy. Somebody in the chat brought up, it's a good point, that the movie has a great light play in it. And he mentioned film noir. And although the film is not film noir, and that's not what he was saying, I'm sure, but it does have a great use of lighting. I mean, that's it was recognized for sound effects and for special effects. And it's crazy because it's not CGI that does it there are a couple of CGI things in the movie that they have to be, like with the explosions and stuff inside the elevator corridor, but just the traditional use of light and shade in the movie, it all takes place at night. And yet we see Hans Gruber looking out the shades of the window, and he's kind of covered in darkness. We saw a brief instance of the jerk cop that's Winslow's boss here, like with the red light on him, like, he's shattered in some sort of, I don't know, like alarm bells are going off in terms of his character. It's just very well done.
Yeah. And so now they're back on the radio, and John lets him know that he was behind that massive explosion, that it wasn't the terrorists. We see old guy taking more bumps from the...
He's doing a bump in the...
He's getting a quick rush before he gets the confidence to go perform this the performative lie that he's saying, well, I can deliver John to you. He's actually one of my good friends.
Yeah. He's a great friend of mine, babe. I'm at the negotiating table.
He goes, I'm not just going to sit here. He's going to get us killed.
Yeah.
So here he walks in, very suave and confident. He is the actor. Again, I'm not familiar. You are, but he plays this role incredibly well.
Yeah. Shoulder pads, Valentino suit. Listen up, babe. Give me a Coke.
He says that. Listen up, babe.
Yeah. The way he relaxes in the chair. Let's sell it. You have to make it more believable, right? Otherwise, he's going to shoot me, dumbass. But McClane, this is why I'm a hero. This is why McClane is the hero, because he even takes up for this jerk, right? He's like, Hans, this guy doesn't know what type of man you are, but I do. He trusts me. He doesn't know anything. Here he is looking back at his family and his wallet, making us remember what the whole thing is about.
Right. And this is where Hans says his name. Hey, I know that you're John McClane. I know that you're a New York police officer, and I have your friend here before me. And this is where exactly what you said. He's like, this guy, I don't know this guy. I met him tonight, and he's lying to you. He doesn't understand who you are. I do. And Hans quickly realizes. So he has this whole tale about Johnny boy,
John boy. Yeah. Yeah. Relaxing with his knee up. John boy, listen up, babe. Also another great thing is that the guy in the background, the blonde guy in the background, even he gets upset, because his brother's been killed, but he's also extremely lackadaisical in terms of his body language throughout the rest of the thing. There's this an unconscious selling in the movie of the fact that these terrorists are incredibly comfortable with what they're doing. Nobody sort of loses it until it comes time to do that. He's got the one guy bringing him a Coke. Oh, now I'm one of you guys.
Right. Yeah, they start filling the glass up here. And you can see, oh, man, I wish I stopped right there at John's face, because he's like, you do not know what you're getting into right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so eventually John says, I just met this guy right here. He says, I just met this guy tonight. He's not worth your time. He doesn't know what he's doing. And then he's like, John. And they just take him out right there.
Did you hear that? He just let him go. Listen, man, he had no choice. And I think he's one of us. I think he's a cop.
Right.
Yeah.
So now the Hans is on channel with the police chief here, and feel free to commentate if you find anything important during these few scenes.
The reporter also says something on TV. I forget what mistake he makes. He says something. What does he say? He gets one of the facts wrong. The guy's like, these guys seem like they're from Pearl Harbor, and the guy's like, which is in China, right? He tries to add
something like that. Yeah, I forget what it is, but they're hosting a negotiating expert, and he's talking about what happens during these situations and the sort of general timeline for the hostages. He's talking about the Helsinki effect, where the hostages will begin to view their captures, the terrorists as sympathetic figures and begin to identify with them.
Yeah, so he's talking about the expert, the kind of William F. Buckley guy they have on, is talking about, well, the postmodern effects of the Stockholm syndrome, but he says Helsinki syndrome, and this guy says which is in Sweden.
Yeah.
It's funny. But it doesn't give exposition, which is great. It's not needless. It just provides for sort of a real-time understanding of what's happening. And here we get what you were talking about earlier. Hans Gruber improvises, oh no, please don't shoot me, right? With his improvised American accent. And what's brilliant about this is that McClane, they're playing a double game here. McClane glances, because he knows his situational awareness. He looks up at there's a billboard with all of the names of the people on the various floors, which he glances at, and he questions the guy, and the guy, and Gruber says Bill Clay, and he's also looked at the thing. So it's two sides of the same coin here. Both are highly aware. And then he thinks that he gets one over on McLean because he points the gun at him. Ah, no bullets. It's just so well done.
Yeah, it is. So as BLA is saying, Hans is pretending to be one of the hostages who escaped here. And Bruce is trying to, well, Bruce Willis is trying to decipher whether to trust him or not. And so it all ends up here. Well, here we see the FBI arrive.
Special Agent Johnson. This is Special Agent Johnson. No relation.
Yeah, that's a great line there.
So this guy, if people in the chat, the folks at home don't remember, that's Robert Davi. Here's another Bond connection. Robert Davi played the villain in License to Kill.
Ah,
right there, yeah. Famous. Robert Davi is also a famous. I think he's Cuban American, famous conservative.
So John hands one of these European cigarettes, the last one, over to Hans, thinking that he's one of these hostages. But I think John already has his suspicion. And so he ends up, this scene kind of culminates in him handing an empty handgun to him and acting as if it's loaded and a bullet is chambered in it. And it's kind of testing him to see what he's going to do with it. Of course, he falls for the bait and ends up pulling the gun on John right here. And you can see he's not too worried about it. He knows the gun's empty.
I can't tell. By the way, I mentioned earlier about Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman was, a Skittles man in real life, and I'm not sure if it's it must be an intentional choice, but even the way that he lights the cigarette, he sort of has this sort of fey way about him, which I couldn't tell if it bleeds through from him into his character unintentionally, but I think he's doing that to show his beta status in the situation, that he recognizes that McLean is there to save him before he turns the tables and points the gun on him and becomes a terrorist. But word of wisdom to the young members of the audience: if you're ever smoking a cigarette, don't let another man light your cigarette. That's my only piece of advice. If you're smoking a cig and you bum a stick from somebody and they hold out a lighter like they're going to light it, you take the lighter and you light the cigarette yourself. It's just a thing you do. You don't let another guy light your smoke.
Proper fag etiquette.
There you go. There you go.
And so here Hans, he tries to shoot him. He realizes the gun's empty as well. John is totally in control here. And now we see
the glass.
His handymen, they come in and they start firing. John's running from his life here, trying to avoid automatic fire. I love how with these automatic weapons, they can never hit anything.
Yeah.
And he's over there with his pistol. Eventually, he's going to make his way out of this scenario here, and they can't find him.
Dude, the hockey puck grenades are sick.
Yeah.
When I was a kid and I saw this movie, I went out and bought a pack of hockey pucks so that I could pretend they were grenades. Just because of this movie. They're so cool. They slide them. Shoot the glass.
Here we see the reporter. He finds out the guy's name, then finds out the wife, then looks up where the wife lives, and he's getting ready to go. Yeah, you said basically dox John and the wife with the kids. That's going to be coming up here soon. His wife is realizing that John is still alive and that he is still putting a wrench into the terrorist operation here. And so she is one of the few that is still hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
And we see John was walking barefoot on all the glass. Again, as BLA said, Hans is saying, shoot the glass. Yeah. And now his feet are all cut up and bloody, and he's got to escape to a bathroom to try to pull the glass out the bottom of his left foot.
It's a great scene, dude.
And so now he's online here with Al, giving him insight into what's going on.
Yeah. Is this when Al opens? Yeah, this is when Al opens up to him. So this is great because, okay, again, one of the things that the cop says is, what do you mean they haven't asked for negotiations? They don't want anything, right? And the negotiation is happening between the two good guys, which is what confuses the cop, his boss. but we see a kind of a weird sort of negotiation here happening because McLean can't say to, he goes by a pseudonym. He's got a nom de guerre, his Roy Rogers. That also is going to tie up later with Hans Gruber, who talks about Marshall Dillon and John Wayne. And he says, here he says he was always partial to Roy Rogers, which is also interesting because Roy Rogers is kind of a counter to this sort of pizzazz and flair that Hans Gruber has. So all the characters are sort of mirrored. But Al opens up here about, I was young, I shot, I thought a kid had a cell phone, but it was a gun. I shot him. Right. He was a 9-year-old kid.
There's a lot of combo on your channel regarding my nicotine pouches. I will say, somebody said, Pablo said, On Brand are the bed pouches. I'm not a huge fan of On. I've tried On, Rogue, Zen. There's another Canadian company that I've tried. So I've tried just about all the different nicotine pouches, but to each their own. Find whatever suits you best.
Well, as a longtime Philip Morris devotee, I've been invited to exclusive events to try out corporate products by Philip Morris.
I think Zen's owned by Philip Morris.
Yeah, Marlboro Adventure Team member since I was 12 years old. They didn't know that, but I tested those out. Yes, I tested those out before they were before they went public, and I can't do any of those. It's like I don't smoke cigars either. I'm just
I like cigars and pipes.
I'm just a regular old Philip Morris cowboy Marlboro smoker here.
So anyways, back to the film here. As you said, Al kind of lays out the fact that he has been demoted, kind of been stuck doing paperwork a lot of the time because he accidentally shot a child who had a fake gun, and it was dark. He wasn't sure. Now they're watching video. The Hans is expecting the FBI to eventually bring helicopters, shut down the grid around the building, which he actually wants them to do because it's going to play into their plan, which the FBI does exactly what Hans expects them to do.
This guy right here in the red, this guy's great. He plays in Hunt for Red October, again, John McTiernan movie. He plays the guy who drops Alec Baldwin from the helicopter onto the submarine. And he's like, yeah, it makes you puke. And he's sitting there eating a candy bar in the movie. He's got a great dialogue. And I think he's in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles too. He's one of John Candy's friends. But it's just interesting how when the feds show up, they can tell the guy, shut down the whole power grid. Hey, listen, we got a situation here. If you don't want to lose your job, we can just shut it down. The guy's like, we got a situation. They can just shut down the power grid for anything.
Right. So now John, we see he's kind of wrapped up his foot, got the piece of glass out, and the hacker here, I think he just has like 1 or 2 more levels to complete. And so they're all they're trying to do is buy a little bit more time, and then they're going to get everything out.
Yeah.
I froze again. There it goes. Here,
Consuela.
Consuela is now approached by the TV reporter who essentially threatens her with deportation if she does not let him in the house.
I just noticed, I think the cameraman for the TV crew is the same guy who's in the convenience store
this guy right here.
Yeah, is that the same? No, that's not the same guy. It's just another guy with a mustache. Never mind.
It's the 80s, man.
It would be funny if he has the same actor.
So this is where John, he crawls back to where he stole some C4 earlier and finds that there's a heck of a lot more, and realizes that they plan on blowing up the whole building once they accomplish their task. And he then gets attacked by the brother of the man that he broke the neck of.
Yeah. And you can tell that he's European because he's kicking him in the fight.
And Hans goes ahead and he now realizes, based on the reporters reporting from Holly's house there in LA, that they are now married. He connects the dots, realizes they have children, and takes her hostage with them and plans on taking her with them wherever they're going, potentially kill her. And so we see they're getting all the goods out of the vault here. John is in a fierce battle.
It's a great fight.
It is a great fight, and I love the end where he wraps the chain around his neck.
Yeah.
There he goes. Sends him on his way.
Even the way Bruce Willis acts his fighting is cool. It reminds me of Bane in Dark Knight. He's really going all out and hitting this dude. This is the great part. It's like Saigon.
Yeah.
Right, making their way through.
Right there.
Yeah. This is the Vietnam subplot. And remember, they even say, because what they're talking about here is the evacuation of Saigon. And there's a kind of a Vietnam subplot to this, which there would be in terms of 80s movies. That's their war, everything's sort of Vietnam influence. The guy goes, I was in middle school. Great point. But he even says something like, we're going to lose 25% of the hostages. Yeah, we can handle that. So what's cool about the movie is that it shows that the feds are just as bad and ruthless as the terrorists are. So when Hans Gruber says, "Oh, we don't have to do anything till the FBI shows up," it's also a point of, they need to start getting things done, because the feds are just as willing to come in and kill everybody as the bad guys are.
Right.
Yeah, it sucks that Bruce Willis is in full on dementia now. I mean, that's what happens in life.
I know, man. That is so sad. I recently saw
a video
posted by one of his daughters. I don't know if it was her social media. It was going around X, and yeah, it is really
terrible
sad
disease.
to see. Prayers with Bruce Willis and his family, but it is sad to see the state that he's in.
That's a terrible thing, and it sucks. Because Bruce Willis really is a fine actor. And I mean, just look at Pulp Fiction. He really is one of the only actors that can sort of go from these hard action movies into a dramatic role. Pulp Fiction kind of has both, but he's in 4 Rooms by Quentin Tarantino. He's great in that.
Right.
He makes a cameo in Ocean's 12. He's just very good. He's a very good actor, very likable.
Yep. So here he's on the roof where the hostages are, and the FBI is coming. They're getting ready to, what they believe to do is get these hostages, and he is telling them to get off the roof, of which they are getting ready to open fire on the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And so he fires in the air, gets the people to flee down, and then he's ends up getting a bit wounded here. I believe he's shot in the arm.
He gets shot in the arm. Yeah.
And
the detonators.
Yep, the detonators, which they end up coming here. No, this is where he wraps the hose around his waist, jumps down as the detonators, the top of the buildings get ready to explode, which he realizes that what the plan is to blow off the roof when the FBI comes to take the hostages.
Yeah. So they're gonna steal all the stuff, and then the whole hostage crisis is just a cutout, a psyop to cover up the fact of what they're doing, and then they're going to blow it all up with the rubble to cover up their tracks. Reminds me of a different event in 2001.
Yeah, I love this scene
complete
too,
with people jumping off of buildings.
True.
Yeah.
This scene here where he breaks through the window with the hose wrapped around his waist, and then it falls, the wheel in which the hose is wrapped around. And it's getting ready to pull him out of the window. It's a very nice, suspenseful scene here where you can see him being dragged. It's like, oh, cool. No. And so he's able to get it off his waist. Of course, it's a film. He's not going to die.
There's the Vietnam sequence with him jumping into the water.
I was getting ready to try to stop on. This is the scene that you're talking about where he's walking through the water. It's a very Vietnam-like scene.
Yeah.
You see the trees, the Christmas trees exploded.
Yeah, deer hunter type of scene. Here's Argyle waking up.
Yes, and coming to save the day.
He really does.
Pulling around in his limo that's got all the bells and whistles, and drives it right into the side of this van, which this was their getaway. They're going to put all the valuable goods inside this fire department, Los Angeles City Fire Department paramedic van. And that way they'd be able to sneak through all of the police by looking as if they are actually part of the emergency crew.
Just like Heat. He's even got the same gear on as Heat. And then this, it is clever here how they let the black guy hit the other black guy in the movie, right? And he pops him, he gets his one in. Yeah, there he is. Yeah, that's my boy.
Well, and Al, the black police officer, he kills the last German.
He does, saves the day.
I know, black on white violence. You know, even in Die Hard.
Yeah, but this used to be a proper country, man, you know.
And so
Mexican standoff right here. Yeah.
Yeah, here's the standoff. And this is where he has a gun taped to his back with Christmas packaging tape. And so Hans has his wife, and he then throws his gun down, seemingly surrendering himself, although not knowing the extent of his plans here.
Well, he threw down his gun, but he's still got two guns.
Well, that's what I was saying. He has a pistol taped to his back with Christmas packaging tape.
Yeah. Isn't that right, cowboy?
And he only has 2 bullets left. So he has to make sure he does the most with these 2 bullets. So they all begin laughing, looking at the situation here. And then
it wouldn't be a stream with me if I didn't offer my my people here an abyssal comment. So here he is coming out of the abyss in red, and then here's Hans falling right down into hell.
Right. And this, after I found that little fact, which I found it after watching the movie last night, watching again, it was through doing some research today on the film. It's very interesting to know that Alan did not know he was going to be dropped on 1, and that he actually did drop 40 feet. I mean, that would cause me to look very scared if I was an actor dropping 40 feet on my back.
Well, and he corrected him on his film knowledge too. You know, you're just like John Wayne with, you know, and he corrects him. Yeah, it was Marshall Dillon, dickhead, you know, cowboy. So he's commenting on the American cowboy mythology, which you've done a stream on.
Yes, I did a whole stream on the cowboy and the facts about the Wild Wild West. And I just want to say, for everybody who's still here, if you're on BLA or you're on my channel, smash that like, guys. We would greatly appreciate that. It helps YouTube recommend the video after we get done. So if you're on BLA's channel, hit that like. If you're on my channel, hit that like. I'll even put this up here. Smash the like, guys, no matter what channel you guys are on right now. And now this is the conclusion of the movie. And we see it come back full circle with the real Rolex right here. So Hans is holding on to the wrist of Holly, John's wife, and we see that he undoes the Rolex that her colleague
Bachner. Yeah, it was a Rolex. I gave her a Rolex. It's a gift. Well, here's your gift. Right? It's great. It's great. It's great that the material object recurs in the film to play a pivotal role in the fall of man here down into the, I mean, that is a great shot. And it's the slow motion in the orchestra right here is what got the Oscar nomination. That's the special effects Oscar nomination right there. As if that's our metric, but I mean, still we're going to use that for this. And then they have a cutaway shot. So the movie meant, like you were saying earlier, you know, McTiernan not wanting to do too much ultra violence in the film, but he is restrained here in how he pulls away, and we don't even hear a splat. We hear a thump. We don't watch him drop all the way to the ground. We have an exterior shot of the cops watching him. And when he falls, we have the 2 cops. Oh, that's got to hurt. You know, so it makes it lightens the gravitas of this death scene. It's good. And it looks like he's falling into hell right there.
Yes, it does. Which, again, as you pointed out, which was a great insight. Hans Gruber. Gruber means valley dweller. So he's returning back to the valleys, returning back to the abyss, the underworld. Yeah. And so he falls here, which this is a great scene where you can see a body sort of flailing as it falls. And the reunion with John and Holly.
Hell yeah.
They state their love to each other. We can see the absolute catastrophe outside the Nakatomi Plaza.
So sick, dude. That's awesome. It's cool. It's cool that McLean is the one who blows up the building, right? And they say they're using artillery on us. One-man army.
And so this was the scene that you mentioned in the, I think at the early of the stream, the sort of how the way John enters the film is very similar to the way that John exits the film. And so he's walking to meet Al here, and they immediately recognize each other, although they've never met. And we see one German fellow, the last one here. He stands up, has his MP5 ready, and Al dignifies himself, redeems himself, and issues the final blow to the last terrorist
with his revolver. And I just noticed in live time, this is why you guys watch, that the bad guys meant to make their way out of here in a fire truck, right? That little van disguised as EMTs. Well, guess what? The good guy makes his way out wrapped in a fireman's jacket. Look at that.
Oh, great. Yeah, great connection there. I didn't even think about that. That's a great little connection.
And also McLean, you know, he saved the day, but in this situation, he's just saving his wife. So he you know, he ducks his wife and shields her from the gunfire. And the other guy saves the day, which is great.
Right. And Argyle, he breaks through the gate with his limousine and then pulls up and opens the door, and John and Holly get into the back seat. So now he does sit in the back seat with his wife, as again the sort of hero's journey of the film here. And that's
comes in on the limo, leaves on the limo. Look, there's the shot of the WTC in the background. But I mean, there's even firemen on cranes, like the smoke rising, the rubble. You know, yeah, it's a great movie. And then exit with Christmas music in the background. So Christmas movie, we proved it right there.
We did. Yeah. Whether or not Bruce Willis or what's the director's? It's blanking on me. We've already
McTiernan.
Intended it to be a Christmas movie or not. It has been received as a Christmas movie. Within my own family, it is somebody's favorite Christmas movie. As I mentioned, my brother-in-law, and it is the first movie that he watches every Christmas season after Thanksgiving is Die Hard. So is it a Christmas movie? I think BLA and I both conclude it absolutely is a Christmas movie. It's not your typical Christmas movie, but as BLA highlighted, it has sort of set a new standard for these sort of violent, gun blazing Christmas films.
Yeah. So I'm going to end this poll right here. Is this a Christmas movie?
Yep.
89% say yes over here. So there we go.
I ended with 72% yes, 27% no, over 128 votes.
There we go. And let me just, I think we got to the super chat already, but let me give another shout out to Siege D, who dropped $1.99. Yes, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Mud, thank you for the super chat. First person Q, thank you for that super chat.
Yes.
If there's any more
so I can go through them again. Siege D, thank you for supporting both of us. He said, welcome to the party, pal, which was when Al Pal was getting shot by Mud was asking us about Starship Troopers. Neither one of us were familiar. First person,
I know the movie, but
those super stickers. Thank you very much, brother. Mud asked about sponsoring a stream, and then Jay Hamza supported me over on Dono Chat, as well as Justin Hinley on Streamlabs. So, guys, that concludes our film analysis of Die Hard. Is it a Christmas movie? We both agree that it is. And so I saw Technographics said, I know what movie I'll be watching tonight. So it is a timeless film. Even watching the film review here, I guarantee you can still watch it tonight and find it as still a sort of timeless classic film.
Yes. Thank you also to Jacob, who drops $10 on PayPal. Thanks, Jacob. Really appreciate you. Thank you for the support. Hey, thanks everybody for the support. Make sure you give us both a like, share the stream out there. You know, Yes, this Carado says it's weird because Predator is way more violent and graphic than Die Hard. Look, if you want to see a full-on Predator analysis, go to my channel and watch my analysis of what I think is the greatest action movie, Predator. It's the most dangerous game. I have another most dangerous game stream, but that movie is, of course, sort of a 80s proxy war complete with body mods. By the way, quick trivia, Jean-Claude Van Damme is in the movie. He was hired to be Predator, and then they replaced him, but he is in the movie. There's a scene where he is running through the jungle after he has been shot, Predator, and we see a silhouette of Predator running. That is Jean-Claude Van Damme in one of his only shots that was kept for the film, which is crazy that there was that convergence. Please make sure you go over to my channel and check out all of the book and movie analysis that I have, especially my wholesome stream that I just did. Can I go give a quick plug for
Sure
what I got coming up here? I got coming up, this is my next analysis. I'm doing a stream on the William Gibson. Shouts out to Circle G who sent me this book, the William Gibson book, Neuromancer. This is where the Matrix comes
that's
from.
That's a classic sci-fi novel.
This is cyberspace here. This is the origin of the Matrix. It's a difficult book. It's a beautiful book, but it's also difficult. And I'm comparing that with J.G. Ballard's The Drowned World, which is a fantastic piece of dystopian sci-fi, because this is about inner space. This is where sci-fi is not on an off world. This is inner space and the true dystopia of a kind of bland future mixed with climactic events. And so I'll be talking about futurism and computer technology and literature. So please catch that when I put it up soon.
Absolutely. And I have some sponsored streams. I have one coming on American Orthodox Saints. So I just got the book. The author, Robert John Hammond, is the author. He's a good Orthodox gentleman who's working on a film project called American Orthodoxy. And I will be covering many of the prominent American Orthodox saints. I also have one on Fools for Christ. Shout out to Justin Henley for sponsoring that. I also have one on sort of deconstructing Scottish realism and going over what exactly that is, common sense realism. And one comparing Orthodox Christianity with Confucianism. So all those are in coming up here soon on the stream. So, and I also have some other ones. I think I'm going to do a stream maybe next week on the theology of dispensationalism and Christian Zionism. So that should be a little bit of a spicy topic that people will be interested in. But anyways, BLA, thank you again, brother. God bless you. Merry Christmas.
Hey, Merry Christmas. I had one more super chat just came in for me, and that's from Buster, who drops $10 and says, definitely a Christmas movie. So there you have it.
There you go.
Definitely a Christmas movie.
It's official.
Hey, man, thank you for having me on here again. Everybody, again, make sure that you like our streams. This is an annual tradition for us, and we're going to keep doing this. Please make sure you check out DPH's all of his streams. I mean, he's really been killing it with the high IQ content. So we love to see it.
Appreciate that.
I hope that you and Jenny have a wonderful, blessed Christmas. You guys, look, man, we've been through a lot in the past few years, but we got to stay positive, keep positive posting. And, times are tough, but, we got to trust, of course, in the Lord. And we have to trust, we have to be kind to people. We got to be kind. Kindness. We love that word, kindness. Somebody said that word, never heard it, but I do trust it, kindness. And I think we're going to have a strong 2025, man. It's going to be a good one. So
absolutely. Well, God bless you, brother. God bless everybody in the chat. Merry Christmas to everybody. And we will see you in the next one. As always, Until then, God bless.